my respected Dr. Sadiq, CEO of co-founder iPortal Live, Australian Berhad, and also my fellow panelists. First of all, I would like to extend my thanks to the organizer for the fantastic forum, inviting me on behalf of Malaysia Tourism Council to speak in today's live webinar, Reimagining Port Dickson Tourism. It is an honor to me to be here with all the fantastic panelists. I can see a lot of great names, and also the audience today. I can see a lot of familiar names also in the audience, among the audience. So I think during this pandemic, during this what I call it MCO here in Malaysia, only the best people in tourism will take their time, will make their sacrifice to come so far in this webinar like this. So I think I would like to congratulate the organizers for organizing this forum for us to be together. We don't want to be alone. Once upon a time, 8 o'clock is not too early, but now even 10 o'clock is a bit too early for us. We are living in the comfort zone. To wake up is not an easy things to do, especially during this lockdown, full downtime. So I think it's a great for organizer to organize this type of events. Ladies and gentlemen, Port Dickson is always be one of the favorite destinations for Malaysians, especially the Can you see my slides? All right, yes. Good. All right, good, thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Port Dickson is actually is one of the favorite destination in Malaysia for Malaysians, especially for the Klang Valley residents. It's not so far away from KL, and it's also my quick getaway for a weekend. So I remember when I was small, my family always used Port Dickson as a reward whenever I have got a good grades in school. And so since then, Port Dickson has become my favorite incentive destinations. So at that time there were not so many hotels, international hotels in Port Dickson. I remember that there were a lot of bungalows, private bungalows or government's own bungalows, and a few hotels. I remember that what hotel is it? Mingkot Hotel. I know where there's some Mingkot Hotel, and Sri Rusa Inn. I know where the Sri Rusa Inn still there. But a lot of nice and comfort hotels were there. And as a tour operator in 1980s, I had a chance to introduce Port Dickson to the Eastern European, such as Bulgarian. It was an instant hit to Bulgarians tourists, especially Bulgarian market, excuse me. As it's very near to KL, and you don't need to spend time on the bus or flight to go to the beach from KL. So, but a lot of them asked me, I still remember, a lot of them asked me, why in Port Dickson the locals swim while wearing the full clothes? And yeah, you can see here, there's all the locals are wearing the full clothes, and and they got used to the beach goers wearing bikinis and swim trunks, and then they were asking me, why locals wear full attire clothing or for swimming in Port Dickson Beach? So I couldn't figure out that time. I was so naive. I was so young a few years ago, and except I answered it back. It's actually a very nice culture. We are very what do you call it? We are Islamic. We love to show our Islamic culture. So from there on, it was known to Bulgarian travel agents as Islamic Beach. So and they love it. They love it very much. So ladies and gentlemen, I can relate to this live webinar theme, Reimagining Port Dickson Tourism. Tourism that is both Islamic and sustainable. So and today I've been asked to present on the topic of tourism industry's recovery post COVID-19. As you know, that tourism industry in Malaysia is one of the most, it was one of the fastest growing industry in Malaysia before COVID came. And according to the SME Corp, more than 640,000 SME in Malaysia, or registered company in Malaysia, or small companies in Malaysia involved in tourism industry. Wow, that's huge number. Out of 1.5 or out of 2 million of small companies, 640,000 of small companies involved in tourism industries. Who are these people? We know that we have 5,000 travel agents. We have estimate about 5,000, more than 5,000 tour guides. But what about the rest? We know that there are numbers of hotels. But who are these people of 640,000 small medium enterprise who are involved in a tourism industry? So, and it's also tourism industry is also number 3 contributor to national GDP after communities and also manufacturing, and it creates almost 4 million jobs for Malaysians, and it's one of the biggest employer for the graduates, local graduates. So therefore, tourism industry is very, 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 very important. So when Mr. COVID, some people said Uncle COVID, but you will say that Mr. Villain COVID came, there is this impact for everybody of us, all of us, especially on the productivity. If I can share the productivities, see, if you look at the productivity graph, it has tremendously grow through the year until 2019, and it dipped down right to from 74,000 per employee, 74,000 ringgit per employee, right to 37,000 ringgit per employee as a productive output. It has roughly more than 50% down in 2020, and we hope that all right, fair. 2020 is a bad year, all right. But what about 2021? We were hoping that 2021 we recovered into the V shape, right straight to the recovery stage. To 59, but it's not been materialized, and now we are struggling. Even now, how many more months to go before 2022? We were struggling. We are still struggling, and we hope at least the least that we can do is to go to up to the 43,000 per employee, 43,000 ringgit per employee, the output. So that's our hope. Then people would keep on asking, is there any such thing as post-COVID-19? Today's topic is about tourism industry recovery post-COVID-19. And a lot of us say, is there such a thing called post-COVID-19? Unlike other virus, the virus getting smarter each day. It evolved well in our communities. I don't know whether the virus gets smarter or we become more stupid or what, but it evolved very well. It transformed, and few international leaders has called the citizens to start to learn to live with the virus. Therefore, the COVID-19 will be here almost forever. So how can we say post-COVID-19? So this is the dilemma that we in the tourism industry is facing, and we are a bit confused. We don't know what's going on, and we hope that somebody can explain it better for us to move forward. And we understand it's a new virus, and it's a new pandemic. There is no best practice to counter it. There is no evidence. There is no precedence cases that we can follow. So that's the real situation. But nevertheless, we have to move forward. We have to be positive. We know that we got this question that we can linger it while I present it, and I hope that by end of this presentation we can share each other the view of is there any future beyond 2021? We know that 2021 is almost more than 7 months already gone, and what are we doing? Are we keep on be in the comfort zone, wake up at 11 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock in the morning and stay up watching Netflix or watching, enjoying Spotify or whatever video games that we enjoy, and time flies so fast. So what are we going to continue to do this? I mean, are we going to stay put, or are we going to live with the virus? So I hope that all of us here don't to continue to bury our head like ostrich. We have to face the fact. We have to face the problem. We have to move forward, and we have to work this out, and we have to support each other. Importantly, the supports. So I have a questions with my my clients, with my past clients or future clients also here. Will you be traveling when the interstate borders open? Now the interstate are closed. Even the interstate or inter-district are closed, interstate closed. Even international border, we are still closed. But we are wondering, will you be traveling when interstate borders open? Looking at these the variants, the dangerous variants that we face every day. That we have reports 2 days ago, 17,000, 15,000, just like a stock market. But this is a very bullish stock market where they keep on increasing. So our clients still have a confidence to travel, especially after this when the borders opens? So that's the questions that I have asked this to the our Mita Facebook page. We have a lot of Mita Facebook page fans there. So estimate visitors. We are so happy that 91% of these respondents will travel after this pandemic COVID-19. And the real question is, when is the after pandemic COVID-19? And 9% of the respondents will not travel due to the tight financial situation. We know that. We understand that the financial the pandemic has taken a toll, especially in this our financial standing. And we still we ask, where will you go? Even if you travel, where you go? So mostly they were saying that domestic, of course, is logic speaking. Domestic, they go to domestic destinations, and they would like to try out a local experience. This is very interesting. I'm going to explore this, and also the 10% of it is international destinations. Therefore, that they are still very conservative on the international destinations. And again, the surveys shows that what kind of local experience you want to have. You want to enjoy. First of all, the adventure has really increased. The interest has increased a lot, and also the recreation in terms of glamping, in terms of caravan. I was also surprised. We had our caravan page. The numbers of likes increasing in a huge number in terms of caravan, and also the food also. We Malaysian love foods. We can find foods. Of course, currently we have to order through e-hailing before 8 o'clock in the evening. But before COVID, we used to enjoy foods 24 hours per day. So there's Malaysian love foods. That's what, for the local experience, we want to discover foods. And now, of course, theme park and zoo and other things. So these are the surveys. And this surveys has give us a little bit comforts that there is a hope for in tourism. So recently, last year, we organized our virtual summit where we roughly about 6,000 attendees. There's a few points that we want to emphasize during this pandemic. We call it reset. We need to reset the tourism. So tourism has been doing fantastic in Malaysia, but due to this pandemic, we need to look and to revisit what kind of things that we want. We don't want to be left behind from our competitors. Who are our competitors? We have fantastic friends. We have fantastic national countries like Thailand, Indonesia, who are competing with the same tourists and markets. So these are the things that we need to be more competitive. Therefore, we agreed that we need to reset tourism, not restart with the old engine. To reset, to overhaul the engine, to do everything for us to reset. So there are 5 points. I just want to make quick points. One is the reinvent product. we need to reinvent products. Of course, the products the tourist has is smarter now. They want it more experience. They want it more a life rich experience. A little bit on what kind of the packages, the branding. So reinvent product. I'm sure the producer is doing that now. Number two is research the target market. Who is our market? Is it we depend only on local market? What kind of local market are they family units or are they group units? That's the research target market. Number three is the remodel marketing promotions. To look into how can we spread out our promotions. We used to attend to market through physical or in-person travel mart. We are very comfortable. We print out thousands of papers or leaflets, and we distribute it, and we make contacts and everything. That's the very conventional way. But at the moment now, we can't do that. What is our alternative? So we have to remodel our marketing promotion through social media. We have so many social media as a platform. We through this all kind of online reach. And we also need to see on the technology, because technology is there. Technology was there. In fact, webinar have been donkey years, have been in this world donkey years, but we have not been using it. But due to this pandemic, we are forced to do it, to use it. We know that we have there's a lot of platform, go to webinar, all this. But even Zoom has tremendous followers, and so therefore we need to know, we need to see what kind of technology that we are using in terms of promoting, in terms of the onboarding the digital platform. This is very important. These five things. And the last one is to recalibrate the industry. We know that most of industry depend on what we call it, Industry Act, Tourism Industry Act 1992. And I was told MOTAC is now trying their best to relook, to revisit, to make sure that the act is relevant. And so we are very pleased to know that. We're pleased to hear that. But of course, the act will take a long time. We have to go through past to the parliaments, everything. But meantime, how can we agile the regulations? So the government recently, they has a platform on, call it Malaysia Mudah, to make it easier for the businessmen to adapt to adapt the new rules, to regulation. The government is listening now, and they're adapting the agile regulations. So there's so many examples that I would like to share on these agile regulations. But the government is listening, and to see to understand the problems, and to agile the regulations and also the requirements. So that we really appreciate on behalf of industry. We really appreciate on the effort of agile regulation. So the five R: reinvent products, research the market, target market, remodel marketing, right on technology, and also the recalibrate the industry. These are the five main things we need to reset. We don't want to restart. We want to reset the industries. Therefore, it's very important for us to reset. It's very important that we know you have to face the fact that business will be not as usual. Business as usual are not coming back. We love to have a business as usual coming back to us. We want group tours. We want huge incentive group tours. But be realistic. Are they coming back soon? I don't think so. So if we agree that business as usual are not coming back, should we focus more on innovation initiative? We want to recover our industry. Should we focus more on innovation initiative? Innovation requires collaborations. You cannot work alone. We have to collaborate with all kind of partners. We have to collaborate with all the government agency. That's where the innovations comes. So excuse me. So at the moment now, we have Malaysian Tourism Council is actually focusing on innovations. We hope that our players, our members, our industry players, they are actually champion in this tourism industry. We want them to think out of the box. We don't even want them to stand near to the box. We want it, throw away the box so that we can see the 360 degrees without any prejudice. So we have been doing it for the past 1 year. We have been using this Malaysia virtual experience, the hammocking in the development. So the hammock is very is very what do you call it? Very popular. The national park, the volunteerisms, the health tourism, the sustainable tourism, the glamping, camping, the dark sky. We were surprised that there's a lot of followers on the dark sky tourism, and also with the caravan. I did mention your caravan. I think all these boards, yes, all these elements, all these innovations, they are here. They were here before, but we have not focused it. So I hope that Port Dickson, if we can focus on these what do you call it, these components, I think Port Dickson will be a very, very sustainable destinations for all of us. Okay, moving forward, of course, we have come up, Malaysian Tourism Council have come up with, we call it recovery funnel, 5 steps, roads to recovery. We need to analyze back most of us was one of the old times. No, but we need to see whether before COVID, would this model sustainable? For example, travel agents. We know that we want the old times. We want the good times. The old times is good times. But please analyze your company. 2017, what is your profit? 2018, what is your profit? These are good times. 2019, what is the profit? If you have a less than 5% growth, I mean your company is sooner or later doomed. You have to innovate. You have to innovate. Whether the COVID-19 just speed up the things on your on the company becoming not relevant. So you need to have it analyzed, flashback, and of course you need to know the customer, the ideal. Who is your ideal customer now? Who's the ideal? We don't want, we can't depend on big groups. We have to have smaller groups, smaller individuals, family units. These are the things that we need to see. We need to identify who are the customer, the products. Are these products are still relevant? Are they these products? Do these customers they want these products? And the marketing channels and also broking platform. So we have this, we call it a recovery funnel, a 5 steps road to recovery. I hope that all of us to adapt and to see, to prepare before we open up the border. We may never know. The border will open soon. In fact, the ministers of the tourism ministers has mentioned that Langkawi we will start Langkawi with the COVID-free destinations. So it's only roughly when in September, October. But just in case, time flies very fast. We are not ready. What is going to happen? We don't have staff. We don't have, some of the hotels in Langkawi don't have gardeners to maintain the grass. They don't even have a chef. To cook. So are we ready? We have to ask ourselves, are we ready? So we need to have this to go through to analyze this recovery panel. We hope that everybody to adopt this recovery panel. Of course, we need to compete for the future. There's no way we need to compete. The market will be very competitive. So I will hope that everybody will put in the to be ready and to analyze their own company or their own products and also assets or hotels for them to compete for the future. Future, you're talking about future, all right? Even now, are we adapting and adhering our SOP? The tourists, overseas tourists, they have access. They have they have access to the internet. They know what's going on in Malaysia. Last December, this is what happened in one of the jetty, the most popular jetty ferry in Langkawi, going to Langkawi from Kuala Place to Langkawi. Everybody knows about jetty. So they are not following the SOP. What are you talking about? Social distance? No, it's nothing. No. It's not at all. So the tourists or overseas tourists, they will say, it's very dangerous. These destinations are not following the SOP. So these are the things, the perceptions. So we need to understand we need to make sure that there's a positive perception rather than negative perception. Of course, the business requires sales volume. Sales volume you will require consistent customers. We need a repeat buyers. We don't need new buyers. We need consistent buyers so that we can be able to maximize our capital. To get a new customer, to get a new tourist is very expensive. But if you maintain the same tourist goes to Port Dickson today, the next year, every year they still go to Port Dickson. That will be much better.
Right. If you could sum up, please.
Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. So these are the things that we are following up. I mean, we have a lot certificates on this and here. and we have the certificates endorsed by the government and on the MPC and the Tourism Priority Nexus. And I think, before I end these sessions, I really appreciate all of us to understand the future market. The future market is going to be very fierce. People said, well, it's a lot of blue oceans, but a lot of red oceans. Everybody wants tourists. So therefore, before to sum up my presentations, we need to be prepared. We can't just depend on the governments to open up the border only, but we ourselves, the industry, need to prepare. Therefore, we have this checklist. If you want a checklist or whatever I discussed, this checklist on the before we open up the border, checklist for recovery. Please do free to download this, and so they'll be able to understand better what kind of steps that we need to implement before we open up the border. All right. With that, I would like to again thanks to the organizer. And thanks to all the audience listening to my presentation, my sharing. I may not be perfect, but from these presentations, I hope that I can get more feedback from all of you. Sharing is very important. We need a lot of feedback. We don't want to work in silo. So if you have any suggestions,
Hello.
I'm free. I'm available to me. So I could also in Clubhouse. Me and Andy are also organizing a session every Monday. Please drop by, and we have our special Facebook page, Safe Tourism and Reset Tourism. With that, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And back to you, Dr. Rashidi. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Uzedi, for your passionate, energetic, enthusiastic presentation. If I could sum up, you've taken a very interesting approach. It's a process-driven recovery where you're focusing on reset. You mentioned the letter V in terms of recovery. It looks like it'll be the letter U or the letter W, but nevertheless, they will be forward progress. So thank you, Brother Uzedi, for being with us and sharing some insights and on the good work that you're doing. Our next speaker is Mr. Andy Chong, who's the secretary of the Malaysian Association of Hotel Negara Sembram Chapter Malaysia, and he's going to talk about Port Dickson tourism industry and the way forward. So Andy, please.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. Thank you, organizers, for having me to have a speech, chance to give you a speech. Good morning to good day to international, and good morning to all the keynote speakers and the panelist speaker. Okay, let me introduce myself first. I'm a general manager of the World Hotel and Service Residence in Port Dickson, and also I'm the secretary of the Malaysia Association of Hotel Readiness chapters. I graduated in Master of Information System and Information Technology. Okay, let's play the video. Let me introduce the Port Dickson. Okay, Port Dickson as a Malaysian premier tourist destinations. Play the video, yeah. Okay, serving the mainly Muslim traveler, both Malaysian and also Middle East before the pandemic. All right, you can see from the video. Let me volume. The local domestic tourists were mostly our Muslim traveler. Port Dickson is well known as a natural beach destination of Malaysia and tourism cities, military city. The location of Port Dickson is very convenient. It's adjacent to Kuala Lumpur, capital of Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur International Airport, and Malaysia Mission Valley. And it's an advantage and will increase the Muslim traveler domestically and from the Middle East. Okay, Port Dickson is a top 3 destination for Muslim traveler from Middle East and Malaysia. And Port Dickson has many hotels and facilities are able to accommodate Muslim traveler as a perfect choice of business and leisure. Okay, so Halal hospitality is a vital and very important to Malaysia Association of Hotel and Tourism Chapter and also national level because we have very emphasized on this matter to attract all these Muslim tourists. The hotels and tourism industry should further improve and develop the skill and the knowledge and the service required to handle all the Muslim travelers. So we have emphasized on this, and we are treat Muslim traveler, Muslim tourism as a main market for us, you see, and all related local authorities and government agency and industry players should play their role in giving their support to make the halal hospitality a success. Okay, Malaysia Association, the Malaysia Association of Hotel and Readiness chapters approach a tourism sustainability to strengthen Port Dickson as a potential as a Muslim tourism destination in the country and the international level. So we did approach a local state government agency and also all the tourism players to redevelop the facility and infrastructures and utility based on the demand and requirement of Muslim travelers and Muslim world. This is very important that we treat this as a very important market for us. So beside this, we also approach state government to develop a new product such as commuter train from Seremban to BD to as a convenient as a transportation, and a new highway from KLIA Kuala Lumpur International Airport to Port Dickson. So shorten the travel distance time to 20 minutes. And also there's another product is a bicycle and pedestrian pathway for sports. Another is a Sungai Linggi river cruise. There's a crocodile farm. There's a lot of crocodile to build a crocodile farm, and also upgrading the existing wellness zone. So, and the other one is a water taxis. We want to implement the water taxi from cruise line from PD and up to until Lexis Hibiscus. It's 14 kilometers away from the town. So, and the other point is we try to developing the edu tourism by setting up courses like hotel management certificate to degree to selected hotel in Port Dickson by cooperating with other human capital developers, such as we did have a collaboration with the DHS Hospitality Academy that try to redevelop the human capitals because since we have during this pandemic, I think the youngsters are losing the interest into our hotel line. See that there are no future, so we have to redeveloping the edu-tourism and also training the awareness of very important for non-Muslim employees such as Chinese and Indian to how to handle the don'ts and do and don'ts to deal with the Muslim traveler. So to promote the Sharia compliance hotels and Muslim-friendly hotels that's to provide halal food, alcohol-free beverages, and a prayer room, and well-trained staff to satisfy Muslim travelers. And the other one is to promote the availability of a Muslim-friendly restaurant along in the Port Dickson. We have a lot of food outlet, very nice food. So food is one of the attraction for our Port Dickson. There's a traditional all this local food like salai, ite, all this, and we have a promote a halal certificate of food and kitchen at the hospital. So okay, so far we would like to welcome all these international traveler, tourist traveler, and domestic traveler. What I can see, I think I don't know international traveler, but I'm very sure that the local traveler very much miss our seaside. We call it vitamin C. So that because my marketing still continue to close at Viva Hotel. So when I post a sea view of from the room or from the beach, there's a huge number of likes, 200 over 1,000 likes that and the comment also saying that I miss this place. I wonder when can I go. So this is a thing that all the citizens and the tourists been locked down during this time, and I think this is the we have encountered few open and closed. every time the interstate open, the restriction lifted, our Port Dickson is having a revenge recovery very fast. So because it's due to we are nearby to a Klang Valley, capital of Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, and so I think for local tourists, there's a main destination for them to travel. This is the nearest seaside, I mean the nearest beach and sea that can available to travel here, only 45 minutes. So we have to be positive. Even though we are locked down, in Malaysia of Association of Hotels, as a secretary, I did tell all the hoteliers in the Readiness chapters that we must always look positive. Don't be down and don't try to negative and blame all this point finger to who and who, but look forward, and marketing will never stop. So I hope that this is a positive energy to push up to all the hotelier and also the tourism industry players. So we hope that it will be over. If you're not to lower the positive cases, but hopefully it become an endemic, live with the virus and follow the SOP, economy will open up. Okay, so thank you very much for having me. I don't know whether any question to ask and end the session, please try, have a chance to ask whatever later on. Okay, thank you very much.
Andy, thank you very much for putting us back on time. I appreciate this. And thank you for a helicopter view and a grounds level view of Port Dickson tourism, focusing in on domestic tourism, and then expanding on, at the appropriate time, inbound tourism from the Middle East, because it is one of the top 3 destinations for Middle Eastern travelers, how we can make that into number 1. And anything that we can do to help, we are there to help. So thank you, Andy, and continued success in all the great work that you're doing at Port Dickson. Thank you. Our next speaker, I believe Man Saad, but Man may not be here. He's out of Dubai, and we are trying to get that confirmation. Nevertheless, let's continue to move forward. So our next speaker is Dr. Siti Isa, an associate professor, faculty of forestry and environment, University of Putra, Malaysia. And what she will basically focus in on is the current issues in Islamic tourism. I think this is a challenge, but also an opportunity to elevate and escalate it. So Dr. Siti, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rushdi Siddiqui. I just wonder whether I'm going to share or, okay, so meaning that I have to share. Just give me a few seconds. All right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. And my name is Siti Suryawati Isa. I'm from the Department of Nature Parks and Recreation, Faculty of Forestry and Environment, University Putra, Malaysia. And today I'm going to discuss about the current issues in Islamic tourism, looking at the international and national perspective. So this is the topics that I'm going to cover. There's going to be 4 topics. First, the introduction. The second one is the current issues looking from the international perspective. The third one is current issues looking from the national perspective, focusing in Malaysia, and the conclusion. The introduction, I'm sure that most of you are familiar with what I'm going to present right now, but then it's just a refresh, some refresh information, especially for those who might not, be aware or familiar with the Islam or Islamic tourism. So Islam is referring to the religion what the followers is called as Muslims, and Muslims worship one God, or known as Allah, while Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the messenger of Allah. Islam is an Arabic word meaning submission, and in the religious context means submission to the will of God. The Muslims use Quran as our holy book, and Hadith and Sunnah as their guideline for everyday practices. Quran and Hadith is compulsory, while Sunnah is, if you do it, you will get extra point. If you don't do it, it's not a sin. And Indonesia is the largest Muslim country with almost 225 million worshippers in 2018, meaning that they have 86.7% Muslims followers in Indonesia today. Among the popular Muslims are listed here, just to to list a few. By saying popular doesn't mean that they are good or bad Muslim, or you should take them as a model, because at the end of the day they are human beings just like us, and in Islam we believe that everyone has their weaknesses, just like me and just like all of you. And in Islam the only human being that is perfect is our Prophet Muhammad, so peace be upon him. And World Islamic Tourism, some quick facts. The global Islamic or Muslim tourism market worth US $194 billion, equivalent to 790 billion in 2019. And some call it as halal tourism as well. Some call it Islamic tourism. Top Islamic tourism destinations as reported by Salam Standard are Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, UAE, and Turkey. And the Muslim tourists' expenditure growth increased 2.7 in 2019, with Saudi Arabia followed by Qatar being the biggest spenders on outbound Muslim travelers. Before September 11, 2011, tourists from Saudi, wrong spelling there, and UAE and most of other Middle Eastern countries and Muslim countries preferred to travel to the US and Europe. But after the incident, most of them started to change and find other, destinations due to the Islamophobia, incidents happening in the US and the Europe. And as a result, more countries in Asia are getting their attention, and these Asian countries are also starting to realize that this is a good opportunity and starting to capture this market. And among the top activities and motivation for Islamic tourism are worshipping Allah. That's why Saudi Arabia is always top in this market, because Muslims go there to perform Hajj and Umrah, education and visiting friends and relatives, or VFR. Today, apart from majority Muslim countries, the non-Muslim countries also are starting to position themselves in Islamic tourism market too, which will be discussed in the next slide. Post-COVID-19 or post-pandemic period. Why I put post-pandemic period? Because I know that even if we manage to curb COVID-19, there will always be another pandemics appeared in this world. So that's why I put here in general the post-COVID or the post-pandemic period that we have to prepare ourselves to. All destinations should have a clear SOP, standard of procedures, and not only that, they also must know how to, well executed the SOP. Because I don't know in other countries, but in Malaysia, we might be, like a lack of that, because we don't really have a clear SOP on COVID-19, and it's actually not really well executed. Because maybe this is the first time you are facing this problem, but then still it's in the future we should have a clearer SOP and well executed as well, because during the pandemic period, the mosque or prayer rooms will be closed. So that's why we should tell the tourists what certain area will be that affected by the pandemic, and what should they be doing, because so that they can adjust the timetable, because like for instance, right now most of the mosques and prayer rooms are closed, so they can only perform their prayer, because as a Muslim we have to pray 5 times a day, so they can do it at home, or at at their hotel rooms. So tell them that, and they will understand. They will understand about it, and they can adjust their timetable accordingly. And certain practices might not be able to perform or must be limited, like what is happening in Mecca right now. Last time you can go and perform the tawaf when you go around the Kaaba, the black box, as many times as you like. But nowadays they limited only, you can only do it once. So yeah, things like that. And you have to well communicate, the SOPs and the information, and you should give enough information to your tourists about, the rules and regulation. And nowadays people are using QR code everywhere. So just put, just the most important information on the poster, and then just put the QR code there. And then if the tourists want to know more information, they can scan it through their phone, and then they can read more from that. And you have to have a well-trained personnel and officers on the ground, and make sure the personnel and the officers know, the SOP very, very well. And we have to prepare to live with the virus, as before this, our first, keynote speaker mentioned, what we live with Aedes, and dengue, and other viruses as well. So we have to prepare to live with the virus. And after this, the post-COVID-19 is known as revenge tourism period as well, when more tourists will travel, because they've been, locked down for so many, for instance, in Malaysia, almost 2 years. So people wanted to travel outside. It doesn't matter whether domestic or, internationally, but to me, people will travel domestically first, to test the water before they go to the international destinations. And Muslim-friendly market. By saying this, this is I listed a few countries who are not Islamic, who are not belongs to OIC, Organization of Islamic Cooperation countries, meaning that they are not Muslim countries, or they maybe they have Muslim population in there, but not majority of them. These countries are aggressively promoting themselves to the Islamic tourism. I divided into two. The first one, Asian countries, and the second one, non-Asian countries. The Asian countries that are gaining popularity and aggressively promoting themselves as Muslim or Islamic friendly market are Singapore, because Singapore, they are familiar with Islam, and they have 15.6% Muslim population exists in the country. So the facilities are there, and if excuse me, even Changi International Airport has separate halal and non-halal areas to show their seriousness about attracting this market. And Japan, they are very aggressive for the past 10 years. For example, they prepare prayer rooms at important areas. They increase in F&B establishments in Japan, including at several hotels, for example, in Hotel Plaza in Osaka. So if you, because I went to Japan previously in 2007, and then I went there again in 2017, I can see the differences, they upgrade their, tourists to attract Muslim tourists very, very well. Next one is Thailand. Thailand has 12% Muslim population, mostly in southern part of the country, and it is estimated 3.6 million Muslims visited Thailand in 2018. So Thailand also is really aggressive in marketing themselves for this market. For non-Asian countries, Australia is quite aggressive in attracting the Islamic market as well, Islamic tourism market as well. In 2015, for example, Tourism Australia launched a new guide for Muslim tourists, and even the hotels in Melbourne and Sydney provide praying mats on request for their Muslim tourists. And because I stayed in Australia for almost 5 years, they also, most of the universities has a small prayer room or multi-faith center for Muslim to pray, because the students has to pray 5 times a day, and during Friday they have to the male has to do Friday prayer. And Australian universities are very friendly towards Muslim students. And United Kingdom, this is quite they are all of course very familiar with Muslims. Some parts, in fact, some parts of London are now almost has 50% Muslims, with 3.2 million resides all over the UK. And in fact, they used to have London mayor who are Muslims as well. So UK also are known for non-Muslim countries that manage to attract a significant number of Muslim tourists. Next one, if you're interested with Islamic tourism, you have to prepare with halal facilities, and you have to understand to have basic understanding about halal and haram concept. The top priority one, you should prepare prayer rooms or small mosques, or just a small room, but you have a divider, separation between male and female, separate recreational facilities for men and women, like changing rooms, Muslim-friendly shower and washrooms, arrow indicating the direction of Mecca in every building or hotel rooms, because when we pray, we have to pray towards the direction of Mecca. Secondary, maybe if you have budgets, or if you are more serious about it, you can prepare beds and toilets positions not to face the direction of Mecca, conservative staff dress, use Islamic funding, and provide prayer mats. But this is secondary. And while halal certificate means issued by Muslim highest authority at one country or area, in all countries in the world they have a Muslim highest authority. So normally this Muslim authority will provide this halal certificate. Generally, there are common basic understanding about halal certificate. For example, if for halal food, especially for halal to prepare the meat, it has to be slaughtered by Muslims. Those are very general one. But on top of that, different set of rules and regulations from one country to another in giving this certificate. Like for Malaysia might has slightly different from other countries, but the general rules are still the same. This is the most sought after sign or certificate for Muslim tourists when they travel to non-Muslim countries. It is not for food and beverages only, but everything that Muslims use or consume. For example, airlines, hotels, publications, tour package, finance, and etc. And now we move on to Malaysia. Malaysia Muslim tourism market. Malaysia is currently the front runner in attracting Islamic tourism. Much of the necessary infrastructure is already in place, with roughly 20 million Muslims already residing in the country. Malaysia was named as the most popular destination for Muslim travelers for the 3rd year at the Mastercard's Global Muslim Travel Index, while Saudi Arabia was ranked first with Muslim tourism expenditures, but Malaysia also, in the top 7 source markets accounted for more than half of the total Muslim tourism expenditures. Not only we receive Muslim tourists, but we also produce Muslim tourists to other countries. And for post-COVID-19 or post-pandemic period, at the moment, Malaysia is, the ministry is preparing a few destinations for tourism bubble, such as Langkawi, Kuching, Penang, and islands in Terengganu. But I think with the rate that we are going at the moment, the number of pandemic, COVID-19 cases are really soaring really high. I don't think we are, ready to open these destinations for tourists at the moment. Maybe we have to postpone it until November. And I think health tourism is going to be the next the boom after this, and Islamic tourism operators all around the globe should work together, because right now it's not time to compete among each other, but we have to work together. And I think cleanliness is the key after this, because tourists will be very cautious about cleanliness at at the destinations or services and products. And the facilities, well, Malaysia in general, Malaysia has good Islamic tourism and non-tourism facilities, particularly in F&B sector, Islamic finance and praying area. However, in the tourism industry, only for the past 20 years, facilities such as swimming pool, hair salon, and etc. are becoming Muslim friendly. Many supporting services in the tourism industry are not ready to implement Sharia compliance rules and regulation for their business, particularly in airlines and hospitality sector. But we are getting there, slowly. And Malaysia wants to be champion in producing halal products and services. That's why the government introduced Halal Hub, Islamic fashion show, and cosmetics and medications. And this is the case study that how Malaysian trying to adopt the Sharia compliance by the opening of Rayani Air, started in 2015, but unfortunately due to mismanagement, they have to close down their company after 2 years of operation. But there's one more pioneer of Sharia compliance or halal hospitals, Aurora Hospital Women and Children Hospital in Serdang, established in 2016, and they are still operating until now and very popular among Muslim and non-Muslims clients. And halal certificate in Malaysia is produced by JAKIM, one of the hardest certificates to be awarded to any agencies in Malaysia, very strict and must be renewed every 2 years, referred by many countries all over the world. However, we have problem with law enforcement. It's not just JAKIM, but generally Malaysia has always problem with enforcement. We might have good laws and regulations, but when it comes to implementing the enforcement, we have weaknesses, we have to loopholes. And because of this halal certificate is really sought after, and at the moment in Malaysia, Islamic image sells. So many businesses and many companies use Islam image to sell almost anything, so, and as a result, misuse of Islamic image, they use celebrities logo and overclaim products, misinformation and others, and when because of the weaknesses in our enforcement, so sometimes they got away with this. Okay, this is something that we have to work on. And so the conclusion, Islamic tourism activity remain highly concentrated in Muslim majority countries, which are currently both the major source markets for the Islamic tourism expenditure and popular destinations. Islamic tourism is a natural fit for these countries, as the majority of them already have basic infrastructure and environment in place to cater for the specific needs of Muslim tourists, and thus have a comparative advantage over the others. Therefore, if planned and managed properly, Islamic tourism could play a vital role in revitalizing the economic development and growth, and hence spread the prosperity across the OIC countries, especially for the developing countries. As you all know that, most Muslim countries fall under developing countries. So, that developed countries should help, developing countries by promoting them and by, because we should work together. Whether we want to promote Islamic halal tourism or health tourism, ecotourism, and etc., we must work together in order to bring tourism back on track. And like I said before, I think health tourism is going to be the most important sectors in the tourism industry after this. With that, thank you very much for this opportunity, and thank you for listening. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Dr. Siti, for that vast and expansive background information for those of our guests who do not have much background information on Islamic tourism. I think you are spot on with respect to focusing in on health tourism. And I think as other countries are looking at tapping the Muslim money, the Muslim lifestyle money, I think the area of Muslim culture tourism will also rise. So these are things that we look forward to. So Dr. Siti, thank you very much for your presentation. Our next speaker is Dr. Muhammad Razli Jamaluddin. He's Head Retail Excellence and Consultancy, Institute of Business Excellence at University Talag Mara Shah Alam in Selangor, Malaysia. And he'll be talking about the change to niche product in destination management. So Dr. Muhammad Razli, please. Dr. Razif, are you there? Hello?
Hello.
Good. Welcome, Dr.
Sorry for this actually, because working at home. So good morning, everyone. Good morning and assalamualaikum, everyone. And before can I share my screen, because I already prepared my slides and I adjust a little bit to suit this presentation today.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. I hope my slide is visible to all of you.
Yes.
Okay, so the topic that I was assigned today for discussion is about change to niche product in destination management. And I think the discussion that takes place today is very timely. And I can say that we have a very, members who can share, who can give positive feedback to the environment that we are currently having. Sorry. Okay, so when we talk about this international tourism or tourism after this post-pandemic or after this the time that we are having right now, the unprecedented crisis that we are having right now, so we always talk about this the recovery. So all businesses talk about recovery. So that's why we are currently in the second quarter of the mid-year of 2021, and we can see that up until now we only receive about 4% of recovery as compared to the performance in 2019. So that's why when we talk about full recovery, so we want to have the recovery as in 2019. And we can see that the international tourist arrivals during that time is around 1.4 billion in 2019. Can we achieve that? But we have to zoom into this Asia market where we have about international tourist arrival around 250 million with the tourism receipts of 435 billion. And the notable contribution came from the border tourism, diaspora, as well as a trade event. So that's why we want to achieve in the end of the year about 63 million with the tourism receipts around 78 billion. And we look in Malaysia, when we look into our country, you can see that we have about 26 million tourist arrival in 2019. But when you look at the total figures, and you can understand that the total number that we currently have is about 76.7 million came from ASEAN countries. So top 10 countries came from ASEAN and Asian countries. So that's why we have to redesign again the policy or the strategies for us to cater to the need of people this post COVID-19. And so that's why when we talk about this road to recovery, so the keyword here is the progress of vaccination or the herd immunity. So we always talk about that, and we can see the discussion going on in the country between the academicians, between industry practitioners, But when because when you look at the discussion, they say that there's uneven recovery between the developed country as well as these emerging economies like us or ASEAN countries, developing and less developed countries are quite, lag behind. And you can say that when you look at this, for example, you look at, Europe, so they already organized Euro 2020. And then you look into America, like I think last week or week before last week, the NBA, one of the most anticipated games, they organized it with full crowd, full capacity. But now here in Malaysia, we are still in lockdown. So the government still have to force this restricted movement. But somehow, when we talk about this tourism industry, this tourism industry is the major industry. We can say that one of the economic contributors to the developing countries like us. So that's why when we look at our statistic, we can say that in 2019, so we have a tourist arrival of 26.1 million with the contribution of 24 billion. But we also have, because nowadays we cannot, cater to these international tourists. But what we can do, what we have in disposal is only the domestic tourists. But domestic tourists is also, we can say that quite encouraging segment where it contributes about 48.8 billion US dollar for economy, and with the average spending of US dollar 204. So that means the tourism industry can still continue, can still carry on. But what we can see now is that we have to create immediate plan that cater for this. So what the most important thing today, so we are currently discussing this. So what are the issues that we have to solve? So what are the things that require the practitioners as well as academicians to sit and also to identify the problems that we are currently facing and the best way for us to move forward. And then we have to plan for the new products. Like today, we have been discussing on these Islamic concept as well as these sustainability. And so can we really have to move toward this, and especially like PD, so you want to have this Islamic concept. And I would say that maybe it is timely for you to try to look into it in 2022 and 2021 and 2022. And for next year, maybe we also have to focus on this sustainable short-term plan, because we have to fully exploit the year of rebounds. So most people nowadays, they know that we cannot really go into international market in 2021 and 2022. But what we can do is we can start looking at this year of rebounds in 2024. And that's why I say that we have to understand this domestic market, or we can say that that is the only market that we have. We can say that is the captive market. Can we make it from domestic market to become captive market, where you can say that we have to force them to go around and then to travel as well as to appreciate this Islamic concept, appreciate this green concept. And for that, we can also create jobs for laid off and graduates. And one of the most important thing is to look into digitalization, because that is the key for us to create the ecosystem and partnership. Okay, and in terms of economic projection, when you look at it, and you can say that we always talk about this business recovery, where the business, I think, from the industry side, you can say, maybe you have to agree with me that business really suffer because of they are currently having distributed cash, as well as for them to restart the business, it takes time, And I will say that this year might be quite impossible for them to fully restart. And so what kind of sustainable plan that they can put in place, For example, when we talk about this investment in sustainable asset, so can we say that the investment can be done this year, or they have to plan it this year, and maybe they have to acquire just 10% or maybe 1/5 of the future investment? And then can we say that they have to change the mindset from being profit motive to become responsible citizen, and also to do this responsible marketing? And for that, this is another discussion that quite popular about this revenge tourism, where just now also in the chat box, people talk about this, the new normal environment. And again, we have to focus on domestic tourism, where this policy that we have to put in place, something like smart responsible application. Can we have that kind of application, smart application now? And then we want people to change of lifestyle. And today in Malaysia, we don't really have issue of the Islamic tourism concept because of definitely, apparently we are in Islamic countries. And then again, another thing that we have, maybe we can also look into the anti-consumerism, because in the future, like just now people talk about we don't don't do more development, don't damage the environment. So maybe we have to start thinking of how can we minimize the impact? How can we minimize the consumption? And then can we all of us here agree that Islamic tourism is a new niche product? Okay. And again, finally, the most important thing is all of the discussion today that we are currently discussing will contribute to the tourism GDP, because definitely in 2020 and 2021, there will be low tax collection for this industry. So that's why definitely next year and year after that, there will be lack of allocation to the industry for subsidy. Maybe they have to look into subsidy and exemption. And then for sustainable policy. So this industry, the government need to help these industries. For example, like giving tax incentive for sustainable, the green technology, and maybe we should have this new unpopular policy because we want to reduce the impact of global warming. And for example, let's talk about these sustainable practices. So do we really have this kind, do we really understand about these values, the altruistic values, the egoistic values, and the biospheric values? This one has been discussed like so many years, more than 20 years already people discuss about this. But can we say that we really understand people? We really understand them. And again, for this community engagement, so we need to understand the level of people who really practice sustainable. Okay, when you look at this, what can we say that can industry answer this question? What kind of people really aware of the damage caused to the environment? Can we say that we reduce the carbon footprint? And finally, the lack of motivation. And then I go to the next one to understand the present level of the green practice or the sustainable practice in the tourism and hospitality segment. So can we say that we have this kind of way of life in this, this concept, as well as, or maybe this is just the part of marketing strategies to promote environmental footprints. And we can say that there are many issues that can be discussed, or maybe we have like town hall to have more profound solution to the industry. And finally, this one is just anti-consumerism, because I would say just now, I always mentioned about the word anti-consumerism. So because of, we have to, again, we need to minimize the impact to the society. So maybe Islamic concept as well as sustainable concept are the ways for us to move the industry further. So maybe Malaysia has to take the lead. Not only Malaysia, the Muslim countries have to take the leads in this concept, so that we can champion this sustainability concept. And the final slide for me, and I would say that does ecosystem pro-environmentalist? So we have to answer this question, because we want this to be installed in the industry. So industry wants to have this, sustainability concept. But I forget to put one more sentence here. Does Islamic tourist pro-environmentalist? So all of us need to answer this, and you can say that if we can have this and we can match between this pro-environmentalist with the Islamic concept, then I would say that this concept, this Islamic tourism, will become profound and will be someone, people will take that as one of the best practices for every country in the world. And the final thing, I would say this will be the timeline or the model that maybe we can have discussion, because today we are discussing about sustainability tourism as well as Islamic tourism, because travel is an evolution of needs. And it also is a way of life. And we can see the commonalities or the similarities between this concept with Islamic concept. And can we say that this would be the niche product, or maybe this is only the complementary product, and we have to find the right formulation that can create the new market segment. So because there must be demand, and for us to provide or to supply the products. And definitely we cannot say that when you want to offer sustainable or Islamic concept, you just want to cater to all markets. So if possible, we can try to tap into high-end products. So people, because just now we mentioned about the countries, Islamic countries like Dubai, UAE, Qatar. So they are all these, developed countries, or they have these, people who spend when they travel. So that's why you need to have the product and to cater to them, and then blend of technology, people, and nature, and finally to create better place for living. So that concludes my presentation, and I hope this will spark more discussion in this group, because I know this group is quite small, but somehow we can make difference if we really have this focus. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you, and sorry for the interruption just now.
Dr. Brother Muhammad Razif, brilliant. It's refreshing to hear a presentation and backed by data where you're talking about Islamic and you're talking about sustainability. So thank you. I think this is pioneering work and it's a foundation for others to build upon. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Great. But stay tuned. I'm presenting next and I'll be talking about, let me get my presentation up there. Okay, I'm just putting up my presentation. Just bear with me, please. Okay. Thank you. So what I wanted to do was expand upon Dr. Muhammad Razif's presentation, and this is coincidental and not planned. So what I'm going to focus on is looking at Port Dickson from another optic about carbon neutral tourism that is Islamic, sustainable, links with startups, and it's mass free. But all that is held hostage to the travel readiness indicator. That's extremely important for us to be cognizant of. So travel tourism is huge and the data will support it. If we look at it from the point of GDP, the tourism sector, travel tourism sector would be the third largest country after China. And if we look at the context of trade, it's bigger than global trade. And if we look at it from the point of view of the number of people involved, the data speaks to itself. The flip side of this is COVID has impacted this particular sector disproportionately. And as a result, you're seeing the large chunk of the audience that are in the sector that may be lost forever. So this is something that a government and industry groups have to work for. Why is Islamic tourism important? It's all about the numbers. We can talk about the criterias and the categories, but it's about numbers. If we look at the Global Islamic Economy Survey from Dinar Standards and Dubai's DIEDC, we basically see that it is basically $189 billion market in 2018, and it's expected to be about $225 billion come 2024. But the more important part here is the spending. You want to capture part of this $2.2 trillion of the global Islamic economy. What's interesting here is the linkage of global travel to basically the halal food and modest fashion, pharmaceuticals, etc. These are ancillary sectors that are part and parcel of Muslim destinations that need to be highlighted and need to be taken advantage of. Now, if we look at the mindset of the Muslim traveler, I'm looking at it from a different perspective. We've got the Muslim traveler, but this Muslim traveler, especially Gen M, which is this bulge bracket, is looking to align itself with sustainability. And if you look at Islamic principles of Mizan, which is balance, Khalifa, as we are stewards of the planet. So much like the UN SDGs talk about the people, the planet, and prosperity, Islam through Maqasid al-Sharia has talked about the people, the planet, prosperity way before 2015. So at one level, yes, we talk about prohibition of interest and we talk about the permissibility of halal food, but we need to also talk about our stewardship responsibility. And there's part of the maslahah, which is the public benefit for the future generations. So we can travel, but this generation is more conscious of their digital footprint and their carbon footprint. So they look at destinations. They can travel anywhere they want, and they look at these different flags. And what they focus in on is these areas. This is from my colleagues at Crescent Ratings, where I am affiliated with. They look at family-friendly holiday and safe travel destinations, and then they look at the Muslim-friendly services. Then they look at the destination itself. And then it results in a weighting, and as a result of this weighting, Crescent Ratings GMT Index basically ranks countries, and since 2015, Malaysia has been the #1 Muslim majority country for travel. Will that be changing? Possibly, because of COVID. And then when they're at the hotel, the things that the Muslim travel looks at that are must have, need to have, good to have. This is all self-explanatory and these slides are available. The point here is this is the user journey of the Muslim family and Muslim-friendly travel. Now, if we basically look at sustainability and sustainable tourism, there's an alignment with Islamic tourism, but sustainable tourism is focused, and it focuses on 4 key areas. What's sustainable to society? So in this aspect, we're talking about, say, community tourism, and this is important to Muslim travelers. We also look at sustainable environment, as was mentioned by our previous speaker. Here, we're looking at ecotourism and alternative tourism. These things resonate with Muslim travelers. We look at it being part of the sustainable economy. What is our carbon footprint in where we go, and what are we doing in terms of carbon offsets, right? These are real issues this young generation is looking at and actually wanting to do something about this. So if you are a destination place, these are the things that you need to offer. And the last area is sustainable culture. So if we look at sustainable tourism, it has 4 elements, and the 4 elements are explained, but this is also very much aligned to what was mentioned in the previous slide concerning Mizan, Khalifa, and Maslaha. Now, if we look at the numbers of sustainable tourism, it's basically a $130 billion industry by 2024. Yes, it's been impacted by COVID, but if we look at the attributes of what makes sustainable tourism extremely interesting and growing, it's that unique experience, right? That unique experience that allows the traveler to get educated on the destination, its history, its culture, and its resources. And what's interesting about sustainable tourism is sustainable tourists spend more money and are less price sensitive, which is the contra to mass tourism. And I'll get into this. Now, sustainable tourism is broken down into a number of areas, and this is self-explanatory, and I don't want to get into a reading exercise, but what's not mentioned, and this is something Port Dickson should be thinking about, is basically looking at tech tourism and tagging it to part of Islamic tourism and sustainable tourism, because many of the tech companies and their founders are basically aligned to the concept of tech for good. So this becomes an extremely important takeaway. Now, if we were to basically look at the takeaways of sustainable tourism, it's basically connecting with destination at an emotional and a soul level. It's respect for the destination. They spend more money, they return more often, and they become ambassadors of the destination, which means the potential foreign portfolio investment and foreign direct investment is enhanced. These are the insights that destinations need to start looking at. Now, I spoke about mass tourism. Mass tourism is basically the antithesis at one level of sustainable tourism. Number of articles that have come out that this COVID has been a blessing for mass tourism. Mass tourism was basically about low-cost flights, all-inclusive hotels and resort, giant buffets, free and cheap alcohol, and as a result of that, you're seeing a number of places that are destination hubs basically saying we do not want mass tourism money. And one of the places that is a priority against mass tourism is Spain, Barcelona. If you were to read this article, you will actually see that the mass tourist people and groups within the country are basically engaging in actions that come to the point of physical harm at times. If we look at what Langkawi has basically been trying to do since 2017, they want to be protected from the ill effects of mass tourism. And this is an excerpt from that particular article. The point that's highlighted here is basically focusing in on water quality, degradation of its natural resources, land structures, marine life, overcrowding. This is what mass tourism does, and that's why there's this backlash against mass tourism. So Islamic tourism, Muslim lifestyle tourism, excellent. Sustainable tourism, excellent. Mass tourism, not welcome, because it basically hurts what you're using to attract. Now, all tourism has a carbon footprint. As I mentioned to you, tourism travel is the third largest country in terms of GDP, and its carbon footprint is basically equivalent to 8% of the global gas house emissions. If Port Dickson is going to basically focus in on this area, it has to basically see what it can do to reduce the carbon footprint of operations, carbon footprint of those visiting, and I'll get into that. So if we look at the carbon footprint of global tourism, you see the bulk of it is transportation and these other particular areas, and this leads to that 8% of greenhouse gases. And if we look into breaking down the transportation sector, you see that the bulk of it is from the travel transport, right? And then once you're at the destination, so the concept of electric buses, trolleys, and all this other stuff, this becomes part and parcel of the sustainability aspect and the Islamic aspect based upon what we had mentioned on Mizan, Khalifa, and Maslaha. So carbon footprint of global tourism is big because tourism is big. What can responsible destinations do? If we look at energy use at hotels, and I used Barbados because Barbados has weather that's similar to Malaysia. And if we look at where a hotel carbon footprint is, it's air conditioning. If you're looking at lighting, general equipment, and then you're looking at kitchen, pumps, hot water, and laundry. All these areas can be disrupted, and I'll get into that. So just keep this slide in mind, where startups in this space are actually working with the hospitality industry in other parts of the world to reduce the carbon footprint of the hospitality industry. And as a net of that, you're basically seeing more sustainable tourists consider that particular destination, consider that particular hotel and resort to stay. And as we mentioned earlier, they spend more, they stay longer, and they respect the place. So this area is ripe for disruption. Now, this was not discussed amongst any of the speakers today, but this is an extremely important area, a travel readiness indicator. This was basically developed by colleagues at Crescent Ratings. This basically says that when the country opens up again, how ready is it for tourists? So they looked at three particular categories: prevention, control, and detection. So prevention is the vaccine rollout and public information. Where is Malaysia compared to other Muslim majority countries with respect to prevention? The next aspect is the detection, the testing policy. And the last aspect is contact tracing, mask usage, and movement control, which means work from home policies, school closing, and events being closed down. So this becomes an extremely important part of foreign tourists, inbound tourism, because you can be Islamic, you can be sustainable, you can be free from mass tourism. But if you are not travel ready in this vaccine oriented concern environment, then they're not coming. And if we look at the travel readiness indicator from the top OIC countries, we see that Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait, the GCC countries more ready than Malaysia. Does that mean that those tourists who come from the GCC to Southeast Asia, specifically Malaysia, will not come there because the travel readiness indicator is low and health concerns? This has other consequences. If we look at the 20 top inbound markets and we see where Malaysia is, this travel readiness indicator basically will impact this going forward. So from a government point of view, from the rollout point of view, from basically getting to that herd mentality, this becomes an important part of the tourism revenue. So conclusion, for reimagining Port Dickson tourism, the first thing is OTAs, online travel agencies that you are going to be connected with or you want to start should be looking at Islamic, Muslim lifestyle tourism, sustainable tourism, mass-free tourism, and then the travel readiness indicator, because these are things that are important in people's considerations of a destination. Airline, what airline are you going to choose? A number of airlines have become concerned about their carbon footprint. So they are focusing on carbon offsets. They are focusing on biodegradable materials, using less plastic. This is important for Muslims and non-Muslims, and this is something that is an important part of the carbon footprint of the travel sector. So here is where we can do something. The next aspect is choosing a travel destination. And if we look at the top 8 best Port Dickson hotels, and I want to look at one of these hotels to stay. I'm coming from New York. The things that are important to me are the following. What is the carbon footprint of the food that the hotel is serving? Yes, it's halal, but if the food mileage of the food is very low, that means the carbon footprint of the food is very low. So you've got hydroponic farming, vertical farming. This becomes an important part of hotels working with startups in the agri-tech space. And if you look at the agri-tech space in Malaysia, there are a number of them working in this area. So the hotel industry, the hospitality industry needs to work with agri-techs. The second aspect is renewable energy. Obviously, we know energy consumption in a hot, humid climate like Malaysia means ACs are on often. And what can startups offer in terms of renewable energy? And there's a number of them. And again, this is another opportunity to partner and show off that you're partnering with this. And for startups, this is an opportunity to work with clients that want solutions and are willing to do beta tests. Third aspect is water management. You've got beautiful gardens, you've got beautiful bushes and trees. They need to be watered. Maybe not so in Malaysia because of the rains, but in other jurisdictions. What is the water cycle management? Extremely important, and there are a number of startups there. Then you look at laundry. You would be surprised the amount of energy that's consumed with respect to the towels and the bed sheets that have to be cleaned often, especially when you have high peak season hotel vacancy, hotel occupancy, I'm sorry. Laundry tech startups, a number of them, where they reduce the water amount that's required with respect to laundry. Again, these are things that are important for your guests. Zero waste pickup. You know, a number of hotels have basically said, we're moving away from single-use plastic towards packaging. But what do you do with the plastic? Is that going to go to landfills, which may eventually end up in the ocean? And then you read about studies that by 2050, there will be more plastic than fish in the ocean. The point here is, this is an opportunity for the hotels to actually make money with respect to recycling the plastic. And 2 weeks ago, I was a moderator at a seminar, and we were talking to a general manager of a hotel in Sharjah, and he was basically talking about this being a moneymaker. Certificate of carbon offset. This becomes a very interesting play for a hotel. I don't have enough time, but this is something that we will be working on, and carbon credits. So if I were to basically sum up with respect to Port Dickson Tourism, carbon neutral holiday, it has to be Islamic, sustainable, linked to startups, and has to be mass free. I thank you for your time and your consideration. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, all right. Next, our next speaker. Our next speaker is my dear friend who I've got to know in the last, I want to say 8 weeks. I've learned a lot from him and I continue to learn from him. He's the one that basically told me to push the envelope and look at this particular space from a different optic. So Dr. Sri Kumar, thank you. And it's a pleasure and honor for me to introduce you to Dr. Sri Kumar, who will be talking about talent sourcing and development. And he's the group director of DHS Hospitality Academy, Berhad, Malaysia. Dr. Sri, the podium is yours, sir.
Okay, a very good morning. Thank you, Dr. Roshdi, all panel speakers, and also participants. Okay, today my topic is talent sourcing and development. As we have heard from the previous speakers, they have spoken about talent, they have spoken about Islamic tourism to be known to the non-Muslims. And we also had speakers talking about COVID-19. Now, COVID-19 was here 20 years ago, but it came in a different form, like SARS and HINI. These were the indicators that were already alarming us that something big that was going to come. And we also had people talking about enforcement. Okay. So in talent sourcing and development, we have to understand that policies and plans make things possible, but it is human asset that makes things happen in the ground. This is something that we have to be very comfortable, and we have to understand this is reality. So when we talk about talent sourcing, we are talking about addressing the needs of the visitors and also the host communities. Now we have hotels, we have owners who spend a lot of money building hotels, having beautiful architecture. But what happens after the hotel is open? An employee will just jump to another hotel just for 100 ringgit or 200 ringgit. So when we talk about host communities, Haley, the next slide, please. When we talk about host communities, we are talking about the organization looking at the current and future needs. That we have seen that we are talking about carbon, we are talking about recycling, and we are talking about laundry and all these things. Whether the employees who are employed understand this, is this where we want to go? And the most important thing is to look into pathways for talent growth. Gone are the days when somebody will be employed in your organization until he retires. It's very, very rare nowadays. So people want to see talent. People want to see how they can grow in an organization. And the most important function is the human resource. They have to change their way of doing things. It is not, today it is not a recruitment function. The human resource department has to be the salesperson going out, looking for talent, seeking for talent, and selling the industry to them to seek or to inform what they could offer. Okay, Eddie, the next slide. So when we talk about talent sourcing we're talking about how we want to create quality candidates or have quality candidates and also create candidate engagement. Now, how many of our employees in the hotel, they know what is happening? Okay. And talent sourcing in place helps organization recruit proactively and maintain a healthy pipeline of candidates. This is a challenge most human resource individuals in the hospitality industry face in Malaysia and also other parts of Southeast Asia to attract local talent. This is the biggest challenge. So when they can't get local talent, they seek for foreigners to come in, foreign employees to come in. And getting foreign employees to come in, it is only a short-term problem solver, but eventually it also has other issues, and that creates an issue of service and also the quality of service that we provide to the customers. So when we talk about talent development, we have to ask ourselves whether our company, when they do this training, or they call themselves as a learning organization, are they looking at it at a training or developing their staff on an ad hoc basis? That means management has not embraced a strategy for training. It's just done on an ad hoc basis. Or transitional, management sees training as somewhat necessary. Or operational, management's interest in training is focused on compliance. Or strategic, management views talent development as a strategic imperative to facilitate organizational performance and change efforts. We have to understand that quality talent can transform the hotel from home away from home for a guest. This is what the hospitality business is all about. And we have to understand that today, when you look at Port Dickson, we have so many hotels. All of them are offering the same thing. So what is the niche? If you take Port Dickson as a product, why should people come there? Why should they spend their money there? Okay. Next. So when we talk about talent sourcing and development, we are talking about top talent is essential for the future of the organization. This is where the organization should have proper procedures. They should have proper plan where they want to go in the next 1 year to 2 years. Yes, COVID is there, and COVID is going to be there, and it's going to live with us. And how are we going to overcome it? Or how are we going to embrace COVID and be with it? As today's competitive job market, top talent won't be failing into your lap anytime soon. So you have to go out and you have to look for it. And we have to understand that quality talent is a cash check that can be encashed in any country. This is where that we have to understand that this is an important information that I would say that it is a big challenge in this part of the world and also in other parts of the world, that talent sourcing and development is becoming a challenge. And to attract local talent is going to be the greatest challenge any hospitality organization is going to face. We have to relook at the things that how we do. And I thank you very much for attending this webinar.
Dr. Sri, thank you. Thank you very much. In talking about the underbelly of the tourism industry that needs more attention, resources, and more resources if we're going to bring the traveler back in again and again. If they have a bad experience, they become not your best ambassadors. So from that perspective, thank you for sharing with us stuff that is extremely important. Our next speaker is basically Brother Azmi bin Abdul Khalid. He's a visiting lecturer to International Institute of Public Policy and Management, University of Malaysia, and he's going to be talking about preparing for the revised landscape in Islamic tourism. We're all looking forward to listening to what you have to say, Brother Azmi.
Thank you. for the kind introduction. This topic is something that I concocted out of thin air because there have been much to say about revised landscape, post-pandemic, and Islamic tourism as a whole. So I was really trying to grapple with a framework. And this is a framework which is very, very small in nature, just for a start to continue this discussion. Next slide, please. Okay, I have always been fascinated by this idea or this question of what is Islamic tourism. Just now, Dr. Siti has given us a rundown, and then that was helpful. But I am fascinated by this view by her colleagues from the University from Putra University, basically Dr. Mini and Dr. Muhammad Daud and Dr. Nosazali in a paper published in 2020. And then they said that, you know, the definition of Islamic tourism is still unclear. So if it is still unclear, then we are grappling with something which we cannot hold, cannot view, cannot see. But based on the previous presentations, this is not so. So I am now beginning to be slightly confused myself, but nevertheless, we'll proceed. And encompasses various terms such as halal tourism, halal-friendly travel destinations, halal travel, Islamic travel destinations, and halal lifestyle. I would say that these are all givens. As Muslims, we understand this. We know where the boundaries are. We know the sacred lines are. We don't cross them. But for our non-Muslim colleagues, they also understand this. All right. So, for example, if we go to our friends' houses during Chinese New Year, for example, they make sure and they show to us that they don't serve it anything, food or drinks on plates or cups. They give us packed drinks. So that is a very simple example. But that is not my destination in terms of expounding on this idea, actually. I'm more concerned about the other definition given by Motek, which uses a larger concept of Muslim-friendly travel. Now I'm becoming to be a bit confused, to include Islamic tourism. So you have one version, which is the version that was made by our colleagues from University of Putra, and then second one by Motek, and they continue to define this as to include Islamic tourism. So the larger concept of Muslim-friendly travel includes also Islamic tourism. And to continue using those terms is to give official endorsements to their imagined meanings. And this is my argument. And I conclude that it is still vague. So I still agree with my colleagues who have given the definition from the first point just now, that we are still unclear. We are in uncharted territory in terms of what exactly is Islamic tourism. I know that symbolisms, the facades, the content, we all understand that. Definitions are important because if we are going to do, because I come from a policy background, I will try to explain why this is important in terms of policy making, because all these are related to what have been discussed by our colleagues before this. And these were all, you know, brilliant presentations and so forth. It has given me a lot of new ideas. Now, this impression is at best confusing because it has direct policy implications, as I've spoken just now. For example, anything halal technically belongs to the main agency, which is JAKIM, all right, which is outside of MOTEC. What MOTEC has got to respect JAKIM's definition of halal. And then, next slide, please. It is a federal government agency located under the PM's department, Prime Minister's department. So from the points of view, or from the viewpoints of policy making, MOTEC should craft Islamic tourism policies that it does not have, sorry, MOTEC has crafted Islamic tourism policies that it does not have actual expertise and knowledge. So it borrows from here, it borrows from there, it borrows from there, and then they put it together and say that, you know, this is halal tourism, Islamic tourism, and what have you. Okay. I am not in a position to actually quarrel with Mosaic movies, but I feel that from the viewpoints of from the actual policy making standpoint, this is a very important point, because we cannot confuse our own population. Because just now a lot of people have included in the chat, we are cosmopolitan, we are inclusive. So where do all this cosmopolitanism and inclusivity comes in? So there seems to be a clash between perception and reality. Now the reality the reality is there on the basis of Islamic precepts, okay, based on the Quran and Sunnah. That is unquestionable. Okay, and our non-Muslim friends understand that. But from outside of that, when you come to definitional issues, when you come to training issues like what Dr. Sri was saying just now, and our other brothers and sisters just now, they seem to be grappling, me too, all of us are grappling with the idea that how are we going to come out from this belief, or from this stand that everything has got in Malaysian tourism, there is a divide, Muslim, halal, and non-Muslim, by implication, yeah, and by logical deduction, which are on the other side. Actually, we can merge all this conflict from the viewpoint. This conflicting scenario underpins the lack of clarity and the definition of Islamic tourism in the Malaysian experience. I have put myself in hot soup so many times debating this with some friends from other disciplines and in some seminars. So it also does not lend credence to the multiculturalism practice in Malaysia. This is the point that I'm trying to drive at. Where does Islamic tourism and its related definitions or meanings related to our multiculturalism as practiced in this country? Do we put it inside multiculturalism, or do we put it outside? So if we put it outside, then it becomes like a divide. And this divide is no good when we talk about national unity, when we talk about solidarity, and we talk about nation building and this. So it is antithesis to all that. To complicate matters, and this has been spoken so many times just now, and I totally agree with our colleagues' viewpoints, that the COVID-19 pandemic has hit the nation's tourism industry badly. Not only that, just now our brother Siddiqui has said also that internationally we are affected by all this. But this is the best opportunity to recalibrate Islamic tourism, and this is my main point actually. And to give it a form and meaning, which is part of Malaysian tourism that coexists and that can coexist, and it can be part of the multicultural setting. You can call it what you may. This is for us to decide later on. But we have a root word. We have a root platform. We have a root, and this R-O-O-T, not R-U-D-E. Root, basic understanding that the multicultural setting is important. We always say this, politicians, non-politicians always say this. Now, next one is the Sharia compliant and halal aspects are given and understood and should not be separated from the overarching generic name of Malaysian tourism. I have discussed this previously in the other points. Next one, please. Next slide. Yeah, this is the gist of my presentation actually. So I am suggesting that there is a real need to revise the landscape. This is what I mean by revising landscape in Islamic tourism, particularly in these pandemic times and beyond. Since full-scale domestic and international travel is still not normalized, global tourism is also affected. Equally so, outside Malaysia, its version of Islamic tourism cannot be a silo because it is a component of international tourism, like what Brother Siddiqui has said just now. So sometimes we fight with our own shadow when we shouldn't be. And MOTEC policymakers must define Islamic tourism or Muslim-friendly tourism clearly and reposition it as a segment of Malaysian tourism. What is what? Which is what? Which is which? Then it would be easier to brand and market. And I think it will also help the practitioners in the industry to actually rethink about their future roadmaps. Yeah. And because it would involve a few ministries and agencies, it is proposed to approach the Malaysian tourism policy from the whole of government approach, or what we call the WOG approach. So basically what it means is that government agencies working together across borders to share the organization's portfolio of actions to resolve specific issues. Malaysian government has developed a range of policies, standards and guidelines with reference to government agencies in implementing the whole of government policy or approach. This is nothing new, okay? But it hasn't been practiced. It hasn't been adopted by MOTEC yet. Because I see that in MOTEC, there are so many agencies, as I said just now, which are involved. For example, JAKIM and a few others, yeah? So this new tourism landscape will benefit from many inputs and support because the stakeholders will have to work in a new institutional setting with the potential of learning, reskilling, and working in a new setting. So as a conclusion, I would like to point out three main ideas. Number one is that what we are presenting are not conflicting. In fact, we are all coming together to a common destination. But we need to make sure that and make it clear that how can we work together, number one. Number two is that when it is linked to sustainability, then it takes a different tangent because not all of us are trained in that, not all of us are well-versed in that, and we need to be educated and further educated. And number three is that collectively, from all this, hopefully after this session has finished, we should come up with some broad ideas as to whether we want to move forward further or whether we just want to stop here. I would suggest that we should move forward and we should incorporate other people also inside here, especially when I look at the chat box just now, there are so many people who are very, very excited about what we are discussing. And I believe that, they should be given a chance to participate. And to conclude, thank you very much to the organizers and to all my colleagues who are also panelists today. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you, Dr. Azmi, for a refreshing optic on looking at Malaysian tourism in different buckets and then analyzing each bucket and seeing how each bucket can work together, focusing on education, especially in the area of sustainability, and then that Malaysian tourism forward should be stronger. So thank you for your time and that you shared with us and the time that you took with the insights. We appreciate this, and you are 100% correct that we should give the microphone to younger people who've got ideas, because all of us have blind spots. So we at iPortal, and I know Dr. Sri, are all for that. So for those of you who want to be involved and want to have a more say-so and have those words on our platform, we welcome that. So thank you again. Our next speaker is Brother Mel Abisupo, president of the IGOT EDUC Philippines. I apologize if I've mispronounced your name. He will be basically talking about hybrid manpower, the key to the reemergence of tourism. As I mentioned, our dear brother gentleman is from the Philippines, and all of us, especially myself, are anxious to learn about his optics. So to you. Brother, you may be on mute.
All right. Good morning, and thank you for inviting me to talk about hybrid manpower as the key to the industry's rebound. Again, my name is Mel Obispo, and I'm from IGAT EDUC Philippines. Are the industry leaders correctly responding to the catastrophic impact of COVID-19 pandemic? This is a provocative question that would spark discussions and would have contradicting opinion. But we would all agree that the impact of COVID-19 is nothing that was ever witnessed by a human race. The sci-fi movie-like impacts are too devastating that it halted the economies of over 200 countries and affected more than 193 people worldwide. Tourism and hospitality industry, along with the education and airline industries, are the hardest hit by the pandemic. Following the travel restrictions, border closures, and quarantine policies, the government around the world and the private sectors have undertaken magnitude of measures to curb the impact and save the industry from complete collapse. These are some of what we have done. Health protocols adopted, everybody wears masks, wears shields, washes hands with alcohol, disinfection of every surface, and keep social distance. Number 2, awareness campaigns via digital posts, signages, and all conceivable tools. Number 3, facilities installed such as hand disinfectants, temperature checks, acrylic boards, vending machines, and improved ventilations. Number 4, policies are modified such as intensified personal hygiene practices, hand washing routines, and more. Number 5, implementation of safety programs such as 24/7 medical care, white glove service, health insurance coverage, and more. Next is technologies were adopted like screen touch machines, downloadable apps, and digital-based services. Operations were adjusted such as room service, takeout counters, takeout services, online check-in, self-service, and more. Redefined branding such as Anantara Hotels Stay with Peace of Mind or Hilton Hotels Clean Stay or Accor Hotels All Stay Well. Are we responding correctly? The industry's priority has been crisis response. With everything said, everything practiced, everything adopted, there is an obvious missing link on what the industry needs to do to recover more rapidly and be able to benefit from the reemergence of travel activities. All the efforts, response measures, and long list of recovery plans mentioned in earlier discussions would be worthless if we have unprepared workforce. Do we have enough workforce to re-energize the industry? Yes. Do we have the right workforce for the re-emergence of the industry? The answer is no. This pandemic exposed the industry's vulnerability. And one of the vulnerabilities is our workforce. The industry employs nearly 10% of the global workforce, yet our people are underdeveloped. At the height of the pandemic, service personnel and travelers were depicted as both victims and potential carriers of the lethal disease. The industry focused on the protocols, the facilities, and response measures. The workforce was not prepared to respond to this magnitude of catastrophe. The workforce is not being prepared for the changes sponsored by COVID-19. Without hybrid workforce, sudden incident of another pandemic or emergency would again disrupt our operation. Hybrid manpower is one of the keys for the companies to recover and to sustain their operation. In the midst of this mayhem, many experts, including our distinguished speakers, Honorable Ozaidi Odanis and Honorable Andy Chong, believe that the industry must reshape and re-energize with more sustainable in this interdisciplinary directions. In order to stay relevant, the industry leaders must secure the tourism industry with highly developed manpower. The hybrid professionals are highly trained specialists and generalists. Hybrid professionals are the key to the industry's reemergence from the COVID-19 pandemic. They are the muscle of the industry to restart and calibrate the growth engine. To meet the challenges, companies should craft a workforce strategy that develops employees' digital and cognitive capabilities, physical and emotional skills, and adaptability and resilience. Now, as the industry begins to reemerge from this response phase, leaders must focus on accelerating recovery with hybrid talents. COVID-19 pandemic disrupted but never discontinued the tourism industry. The easing of travel bans, lifting of quarantine, and relaxing of border closures has instigated the slow recovery of the industry. Travelers' behaviors and expectations changed. According to Mr. Andy Chong, there is an increased interest in outdoor and adventure activities. We must remember that travelers are still extra sensitive on health safety and data security. They demand hassle-free transactions, less crowd, less contacts, increased attention on personal needs, and brand new customer experience. The changes in travelers' needs and demands require manpower with new skill sets. With these changes, the industry needs hybrid professionals to support the initiative to re-emerge from the devastation of the pandemic. The truth is we are experiencing imbalance in talent supply and demand. COVID-19 pandemic has caused great trauma to the people, and this pandemic is expected to cause a serious and lasting impact on the industry. The ruthless impact of COVID-19 pandemic, I'm still on slide 2. The ruthless impact of COVID-19 pandemic compelled the exodus of many frontliners to shift to other industries where there are no disruptions in their cash flow. This exodus is true mostly in bigger cities where work in other industries provide them with livelihood. The disruption in the tourism industry disrupted their income. Many of these workers have shifted to remote work and have found stability more than opportunities. The scale of transition by the pandemic on labor trends increased the urgency for businesses to take steps to develop hybrid professionals. Hybrid talents are the muscle to invigorate industry and insurance against future disruption. COVID-19 has brought lockdowns, pervasive uncertainties, and sustained attention on health, safety, and data security. As the industry resumes, customer behavior is reshaped, and a new set of skills emerge for the transition. Adapting employee skills and roles to the post-pandemic ways of working is crucial for the recovery of the industry. As Dr. Sri mentioned, our industry must employ top talents for us to provide a truly away from home experience for our guests. We need to match our workforce to the new roles and activities. The blueprint for long-term strategies to develop hybrid workforce. How do we define the tourism industry hybrid workforce? Number 1, multiple hard industry skills. They are capable of performing variety of functions in the operation. Where there are vacuums, they are capable to fill in the needs that prevent disruption in service. For example, a waiter could quickly do housekeeping or bartending or front office functions. And as the need for controlled and limited exposure of people is created by the pandemic, these hotel workers could also do a variety of service for a particular guest. Thus, the guest has limited exposure to the hotel workers. One staff could provide variety of service to particular guests, from room check-in to room service to room sanitizing and so on. Technology literate. We are entering the 4IR period, which is anchored on digitalization. Digital engagement has accelerated tremendously, and out of necessity and convenience, companies have quickly adopted technology in their operation. As a result of this storm of technologies, digitalization radically changed almost every business sector. The whirlwind pace demands that our workforce are technologically literate. The workforce should acquire new skills to boost efficiency of these technologies. We don't need technology-savvy workers. We need workers who are comfortable navigating technologies. Number three, enhance soft skills. Soft skills are the personality, attitude, and motivation. Soft skills create a more deeply engaged workforce. Soft skills that are highly necessary are communication, teamwork, leadership, critical thinking, positive attitude, and work ethics. Number four, familiarity with administrative functions. The worker should be able to perform administrative duties whenever necessary. They should be able to prepare reports on daily basis. The industry should adopt an enhanced reporting system that lists all and every encounters with the guest on daily basis. Number five, emergencies and protocol ready. The workers should be prepared to respond to any type of emergencies. They are ready to handle guests during emergencies, provide emergency treatment, and report incidents. And the most important thing is should be fit to work emotionally, mentally, and physically. The workforce strategies in the recovery are best orchestrated through five critical actions. The first one is reinforce commitment and develop strategic plan. Number two, identify which shift in activities, behavior, and skills are needed. Number three, launch tailored learning strategies to close critical skills through reskills and upskill. Number four, create a positive environment. Number five, align HR operations and policies. One strategy to fast track the development of our workforce, next slide please, is to create an ecosystem of learning partners to produce and deliver training to a broad base of employees. DHS Hospitality Academy, the American Hospitality Academy, and IGAT Edu have jointly developed series of training programs that would help businesses shift their workforce profile to hybrid professionals. DHS Hospitality Academy provides the hard skill, AHA provides the soft skill, and IGAT Edu collaborates with management in developing strategies and policies that guarantee sustainability and brand new customer experience. To summarize, hybrid professionals are fit to work emotionally, mentally, and physically, have familiarity on administrative functions, equipped with multiple hard industry skills, navigates technologies, delivers extra customer service experience, prepared with soft skills, and emergency and contingency ready. We must understand that each operation, each business would have a unique set of skills that are necessary to improve productivity and ensure strong customer experience. We match our workforce to new roles and activities. We create an ecosystem of learning partners to produce and deliver training to a broad base of employees. That completes my talk. Thank you and salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, Brother Mel from Philippines. Thank you very much for that detailed and exhaustive area that requires more spotlighting, which is best practices of the workforce. You know, people talk about people and guests during tourism. Very little attention is paid to those who are behind the counter, who are doing the work that makes the hotel, the resort look great. And I think the things that you talked about, especially this hybrid approach, it's amazing. And we look forward for our next follow-up seminar where we can actually go through a training workshop, a mock training workshops. So thank you. Our next speaker is Dr. Haji Khalil Sharil bin Hamza. He's a Chief Executive Officer of HDC, St. Berhad, Malaysia, and he will be talking about the Muslim-friendly hospitality and halal-certified food and beverage industry in Malaysia. Dear brother, Dr. Haji Khalil, the podium is yours. You may be on mute, brother. Brother Khairul, we can't hear you. Hailey, is he muted or? Okay. Oh, okay. So we're going to the next speaker. My apologies. Our next speaker, Dr. Singara Belu. My apologies for mispronouncing the name. Dr. is an associate professor of economics and administration, University of Malaysia, and he's going to be talking about policy planning on tourism, development, and sustainability. Again, Doctor, my apologies if I mispronounce your name incorrectly. Sincere apologies.
Okay, all right. Please allow me to present my slides on my side here. Sure. Because I've improved the slides further. So if this is, I just wonder whether this you can see my slides.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and fellow members in the audience. This paper is entitled, as you can see, Policy Planning on Tourism, Development and Sustainability, basically on Port Dickson. And we have put in the ideas together. I put in the ideas together with my partner, Mr. Parthipan Presami. No issue about my name. It's pronounced as Kupu Sami Singara Velu. No issue about that. Yeah, just can call me Dr. Kupu. That will be very happy. Yeah, and Mr. Parthipan is also in the audience today. And let me go on since time is limited, and I'll try to rush through. And we have actually realized that what COVID-19 pandemic has caused Malaysia. My slides tend to explain here that in the last 2 years, income has dropped tremendously before the pandemic, from 86.1 billion in tourism to less than 13 billion in last year. And understandable based on what has happened. And many hotels have closed down, including in Kuala Lumpur, Penang, Langkawi, Malacca. And there's always news every now and then saying that hotels are laying off employees for good or what, we don't know. Some hotels are taking opportunity instead as a positive measure to renovate and get ready for the market to open up. Tour agencies, and many we have realized that they have almost become irrelevant. Many have closed down, and it has been said that it's over 300,000 employees have lost their employment along this line. And not only that, airlines are badly also affected, not in Malaysia alone. This is all an experience of all over the world over. And if I can just go on, what does PAPD? I think I'm sorry, I just joined because I was in another engagement where I also had to speak. So I'm not so sure whether I'm repeating some of the facts. Port Dickson has got basically an international flavor here because it's an international tourist destination, and I have personally enjoyed Port Dickson many times. And my favorites are Malacca and Port Dickson, and they are completely different. Port Dickson has got sea, and it enjoys weather, culture, institutions, and food. And it's also protected against major calamities due to its being physically protected by Sumatra, when some islands in parts of Sumatra was also undergoing these earthquakes, and we don't really realize that happening in the peninsula. Now, I think it's lucky thing, and Port Dickson along that line is protected in that sense. It is strategically located very close to Kuala Lumpur. Within 90 minutes, you're there. From KL, Kuala Lumpur International Airport is another very close. Malacca next door, Johor and Singapore, and it makes it very competitive. Yeah, for Port Dickson, and it's an advantage location-wise, and people also talk about, if it's in Penang, they talk about the health industry. It's also very highly dependent on health tourism, for example. It's very highly dependent on the sea. Okay, and for Port Dickson, I think to me it's the only competition is Malacca, which has got different products, and Port Dickson has more beaches, which Malacca does not have. It has, but it's not open for public. Yeah, people do not really are not able to enjoy the seas in Malacca. So, as it all. Now, coming back from this into because I'm going to talk about public policy, the government, the providers of services, and all those things. So, the local authorities, Majlis Perbandaran Port Dickson, Port Dickson Municipal Council, all right, and it has complained in many years. I have been involved with them as well, that over the weekends, more than 100 people visit Port Dickson, and what leaves behind is a lot of tons of rubbish, waste, and also pollution to the beaches. And the local authority has had to basically spend a lot of time and money to run through all those things. Yeah, but in return, it doesn't receive anything much other than only taxes that it receives from the hotel and business operators that benefit from the tourist arrivals. And on top of that, as a result, it is also limited. Its hands are limited in providing expansion into the informal sector activities, it's a boon, yeah, in Malaysia, where you can see a lot of hawkers, stall operators, and food providers all along the towns. Okay, and so it is basically difficult to expect the local authority, which is the third-tier government in Malaysia, to provide very huge support in tourism without returns. But thankfully, the local authority still continues with its own effort to support tourism in Port Dickson, which is the main economic function in Port Dickson. Now, if you look at the population currently is almost about 130,000. I think that this is for last year, and it is estimated to triple by the year 2045. And in 2018, 4.2 million tourists already visited, and this includes the domestic tourism as well. Yeah, and it's expected to increase by 15% in the last 2-3 years. We don't have that records yet. The main key factors are wellness, resort city, army city. Interesting about Port Dickson is the army city, which I will talk about later. Okay, and tourism, industrial, army, petroleum are the key core businesses and activities that you can find in Port Dickson. Army, if as I mentioned about federal, state, local government, the 3 tiers. If you just run through this on the right-hand side, all the bullets tend to indicate that Port Dickson has got a lot to serve. It has got a lot of things in plan, and it has got Malaysia Vision Valley 2.0 that emphasizes on wellness and agro-tourism, green initiatives. Plans are there in establishing a 13-kilometer train service, all in plan, and the West Coast Expressway that is running from the northern part of the peninsula, Taiping to Banting in Selangor, neighboring Negeri Sembilan. It to be extended to pass by Port Dickson all the way to Batu Pahat is also in plan. There's a lot of talks going on, and there's also a proposed high-speed rail is on and off now, and that will be linked to Port Dickson. This is a national policy. We don't want to deliberate on that yet. Yeah, and what's happening at the state level is the state. Okay, Kuala Lumpur and Selangor, which is neighboring Negeri Sembilan, the state where Port Dickson is, also extends to part of Seremban to be called Greater Kuala Lumpur. And looking at this, the state government has already embarked on expanding this zone to be called Greater Kuala Lumpur, to incorporate Port Dickson to be included in it as well. And as a result, so many projects have been earmarked. And if you can see this, the next couple of slides I will show you, it will bring what you call Port Dickson to a greater height in that sense, yeah, if these projects take off, yeah. And if you look at the local level, there are already indication of 25 tourism products in Port Dickson, as highlighted by some news media. Tourism sector investments are also looked at as by the member of the parliament as very important. And Army City, as I mentioned, they have a museum. If you happen to come by here, please just go as you pass by. You can see near the fences that there's a coach, railway coach, a locomotive, and in front of it there will be an armored car. Now, this is a historical event. If anybody realizes, it's really an historical event when the country experienced its first emergency in 1948 to 1960. The communists used to bomb, blast the railway lines. As a result, the army played an important role. The armored car will be just making a head before the train that follows about 50 meters behind. So it is an indication of what it was during that time. And if anybody were to pass by this, please have a look. And I think this is still functioning very well. And it's an area that the Army City, we are not talking about the Army so much, but it's also Army City that makes the city strive. Yeah? And if you look at the last point, PD Coastal Special Area Plan is undergoing, and that's also important. Yeah. Now, if there are 4 areas that, in fact, many more future plans. Duty-free zone. Mr. Parthiban and I were discussing on this. There's plan about duty-free zone, but whether we are not so sure that this will take off, because in duty-free zones in Malaysia, most of them are, not all, always related to islands like Langkawi, and another one in Perak. All right, whereas this is on mainland, Port Dickson is on mainland. How it is going to be operational? That's another question. If you look at KLIA, ERL, KLIA linked to KLIA from PD is one in plan, and Lexis Hibiscus is expanding its wings further on top of what is already there. And Seremban Port Dickson rail line, if you can see the photographs on the right hand side, these are the remnants of the railway track which is still there. And I'm very proud being a railwayman's son. And if you look at that, many people don't really notice the railway tracks are still there. This is where this is the second railway line connected, historically connected to the main line from Seremban to the port. That's how the Port Dickson, the name came about, to transport iron ore from hinterland, Seremban and surrounding areas to the port at Port Dickson then. Okay, this is historical. And the railway line and the railway, the station, you can see at the photograph right at the bottom. And the signal is also there in the second photograph, and the signage, Port Dickson, port has gone missing, covered by the shrubs here. Now, these are all, and there's also plan to revive this, basically revive this railway line. We can see this in this one. These are some of these plans are there already, working between the federal government and the state government, as well as the local government at the 3 levels, hoping that many of these plans will come into being. And Mr. Patiban and I wanted to highlight this just to let the audience know that there are many plans in the future, but it all may take time and policy support, political support, and so on. Yeah? And also finance, yeah, because without the support of the federal government, this may not take off. Now, can go on. Yeah, next slide also is an expansion of road infrastructure that is planned for Port Dickson to excel further. Yeah, so I'd like to go on further. If there's any questions, we can come back to these slides later. Now, in conclusion, I'd just like to say this, that 3 main points, that there's basically high level of commitment from the federal, state, and the local government to make it necessary and to present the development and sustenance of Port Dickson as a key tourism spot. Yeah, due to high expectations, tourism activities is slated to increase in time to come. Of course, I'm suppressing the impact of the pandemic. I think we will should eventually come out of this in near future. Given the major infrastructure development connecting PD to Seremban, and especially KLIA is already in the pipeline. Again, as I mentioned, it all depends on policy and political support of the 3 tiers of the government in Malaysia. And yet, especially in Port Dickson, yeah, and yet all activities and development must be somewhat integrated to be sustainable, to support a sustainable tourism activity in Port Dickson. With that, I'd like to end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kapoor. A very interesting insight. You are the last speaker, so what I will do is try to make my best efforts to sum up our session today, and then move into some of the questions that have been asked, and the speakers that are here, hopefully we will have an opportunity to address them. The program is supposed to end in half an hour, so if more questions come in the chat, then obviously we will continue until our time. So Port Dickson Tourism Reimagined, both Islamic and Sustainable, was the underlying theme. And I think the speakers, keynote speakers, basically fleshed out the landscape and what needs to be done going forward. So we spoke about Islamic tourism and halal compliance, and how there's an alignment to sustainable tourism, where you're talking about the people and the planet. Why that's important is because of the reset that is required, not a restart, but a reset where we review the existing plans, and as part of the new normal, we look to re-energize this, because we're looking at a renaissance, if you will, of tourism in Port Dickson. And that is an important tagline, the renaissance of tourism in Port Dickson. We need to look at the talent, and we need to look at the best practices, because when we are talking about people, people are not just the guests who come, but also those who are behind the scenes and behind the counters. We want the people to have a good experience, because then they return and they become your ambassadors. And those things are extremely important. For sustainable tourism in Port Dickson, I think the natural resources lends itself to further flush this out without compromising the beautiful scenery and the seas. And that's an exciting part. As Dr. Kapu talked about between Port Dickson and Malacca, with respect to the beaches, we hope that Port Dickson will not look too much into mass tourism because that has a destructive element. And other jurisdictions such as Venice, such as Barcelona, such as Langkawi are moving away from it because it doesn't add value. So Port Dickson reimagine focusing on Islamic tourism, Muslim lifestyle tourism, sustainable tourism, linkages with startups, which reduce the carbon footprint of the hospitality industry. Those were some of the things I talked about, and that's something I think Port Dickson should look into, where you can also look into tying it to tech tourism. You know, technology is typically for good. Sustainability is for good. How can we merge technology for good with sustainability? And that becomes one of the calling cards for Port Dickson. So that, in effect, I think was a very insightful and powerful event today. And I hope that Andy will be able to build on this thing. That's the more important thing. This can't be a one-off event. We would love to basically do seminars and training shops, because today we talked about PowerPoint presentations and videos where people have got the appetizer. Now we've got to go for the main course and then the dessert in Port Dickson. And the main course for me is you basically saying that we're going to basically show you all, whether it's Malaysia or outside of Malaysia or the Middle East, that this is how we are approaching it with real life examples, and come and visit and be part of that. So Andy, we hope you will take the lead, and we hope that we will have another seminar where we're taking real world issues and you are showing to us how you're addressing them.
Will do.
All right, absolutely excellent. So now I've got some questions for our speakers, and these questions are extremely interesting. And one of the topics that kept coming up from our invited guests was the concept of revenge tourism. I can also look at this as pent-up tourism. So, you know, the question basically becomes, some speakers have spoken about revenge tourism as a travel trend post-COVID-19, reflecting the pent-up demand for travel. How does this fit or doesn't fit into sustainable tourism? Andy, since I see you in front of me, if you can just start this off about Port Dickson revenge tourism, please.
Okay, we encountered a few times. I think twice in last year have a revenge tourism that's a recovery. All these to domestic tourists who come over at the Port Dickson. So we encounter problem with the talents or the staffing manpower problem. So because as we close down and MCO, so we have not to lay off but unpaid leave, all those stuff. So suddenly, of course, the hardware, the maintenance of hotel is still maintained, but the software side, manpower, we have lack of things, and that's why I need to cooperate with all these the talents academy like Sri Kumar, so that we need to train all these talent to come back interested in the hotel line, because all these young generations see this hotel line with no future because of this pandemic also. So we have to emphasize on this. That's why I did discuss with Dr. Sri Kumar that we need to do all these things, redevelop the human capitals, talents. And the other side is regarding this to Islamic tourists. Yes, we always very emphasize on this, because mostly our domestic market also is Malay, is Islam, so that is our main market also. We try to cater all this, and of course the cleanliness is the most important thing. So regarding this, just now to talk about the beach, this related to, it's not only the operator or the council responsibility. Actually, is the mentality of the tourists, how we keep educated all these tourists to come over with, because as we notice, all these tourists when they eat and in the beach and left over the rubbish around, just around. It's not the facility we could have. We have all this rubbish bin and everything located everywhere. But it seems like nobody cares to it's the education of the tourists and the local tourists that we need to educate them. Or as another, like we have talked to MBDD about the enforcement. So I did tell some tactic for the enforcement to like give a Facebook post viral it that they do a compound to any tourist that throw rubbish or whatever. So get it viral. Then people scared of this. Just act it like Singapore, how they find city out. We need to find them to scare all these tourists to not to throw anywhere they like. So the operator, hotelier, all this did very much. We can't do every second on monitoring all this guests, you see. So it's based on the tourists who well educated. See, and I noticed international tourists didn't do that. So it's basically a domestic market. I mean, domestic local people are doing all the throwing rubbish. So this is come back to the whole thing. So while all the hotels are 5-star hotel, all these star rated hotel, even the budget hotel did put their part of role to play to keep everything clean. You see. This is as when they have a very good image on the Port Dickson, so they become an ambassador to go back to their country or whatever. This is very important. I know that. So, okay.
All right. Thank you, Andy. Any of the others like to talk on revenge tourism or pent-up tourism as we move forward away from the COVID environment? Dr. Sri, Dr. Cooper, Mel?
Yeah. I think Port Dickson is in a very unique position. Its proximity to KLIA and KL and big cities would have a very strong possibility to strengthen its domestic tourism. And I believe, I strongly agree with Mr. Andy Chong that there should be enough manpower, equipped and hybrid manpower to support this events tourism such as food festival and so on. But more than that, I could also suggest that Port Dickson could be the first smiling destination or smiling city where people wears face mask with smiling icon. Give certain pride for people to be smiling even if their smiles are not seen, and it gives certain positive impression on the tourists when everybody's smiling at them, even if it's on face mask.
Yes.
That's a good point. That's an absolute excellent point. I just want to have a follow-up question. So what some destinations are doing is to keep themselves relevant, they're basically putting out videos of virtual tourism that when things go back to normal, you'll be able to basically, have a better experience. But in the interim, here are how we are showcasing and what we're doing. So virtual tourism as a stopgap measure to when the gates open back up for tourism. So amongst our speakers, any thoughts or concepts of virtual tourism as an interim measure to keep the client base interested in your destination?
May I give some opinion on this? Because like virtual tourism, in officially or commercial way, it won't work out. But you can do Facebook Live or YouTube Live with your commenting everything and asking question and Q&A, all this instantly. That it will help. So if you do the virtual like VR, all these commercial things, we have experienced few hotels in a virtual expo or whatever. It doesn't work out. but you do live. You do live Facebook Live as my DWAP do a lot of live telecast. I mean with the commenting and the Q&A, whatever. So bring them along to the beach or whatever. So that's work.
That's a great idea. So are there Facebook video clips that our audience can go and click on? So if Andy, if you could share those links to us, either in the chat or just give to us, and then we will disseminate that information because we also want to see that experience.
All right. I will post our DWAP posting, so I live video on Facebook. All right.
Okay. Absolutely excellent. So thank you. Anyone else with respect to Facebook live feeds, YouTube live feeds for a particular destination better than virtual destination videos? No. Okay. So the other question that we have here is, moving forward, what can travel operators in Malaysia do to better cater to local tourists? Andy, you talked about teaching them the responsibility of responsible tourism, about litter and all this other stuff. It would seem that's common sense, but maybe it's not. I don't know. What are things, Andy, that you, Port Dickson, are focusing in on so people are not only coming in from KL, but other parts because of the sea and the sun and all these other wonderful things?
Added features like water sports, all these attraction, and also it very much is not all the hotels can provide all these added services, features like water sport and ecotourism surrounding farm. That's a destination around the PD. So for DWAF, and I did tell all the hoteliers, try to collaborate with all those industry players to have these added features or added destination, bundle into a room that we are not selling the room. We are all our collaboration, sharing economy. So that's why I tell all the hoteliers that we can't do it as a Lone Ranger now, because we need all of them as a tourist related company or whatever, work it out together. This is my main attraction. I mean, main for my hoteliers to follow this destination, to go along. We can cater all this as a whole. We are promoting Port Dickson. We are not, this is like me, I'm the secretary of the MA, but I'm not promoting only my hotel, I'm promoting the whole Port Dickson and Greece Milan, even the outside the Port Dickson, there's so many ecotourism around, like water flow and everything. So we're dealing with the state government very closely. So this is the things that we need to promote.
Okay, thank you. Brother Azmi, any thoughts on that?
Right.
Any thoughts on what we just discussed, what Andy just talked about?
Oh, yeah.
Can I say something also?
Who's this? I'm sorry, I didn't. Is that you, Mel?
Yes, that's me.
Okay, please go ahead.
I think other than border closures, travel restrictions, one factor that prevents or stops people from traveling is fear. And one of the competitive edge perhaps of Port Dickson would be the knowing that the people or the manpower in Port Dickson are ready, prepared for whatever any other pandemic would happen or emergencies would happen, would give confidence to the travelers that the workers in the industry are ready to provide them with assistance. It's more of confidence that really matters more for these travelers.
Right. So the focus before may have been on crime in certain destinations, keeping people away. Now the focus is on the virus. One of the things that I spoke about was this travel readiness indicator, right? That a particular country, from the point of view of contact tracing, vaccination, and all this other stuff, that gives a level of comfort for people coming into this country. So if that indicator is high, then there's comfort, so that fear is less. Is that the new realm for guests looking at different destinations now, Mel?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, fair enough. All right, thank you. Brother Azmi, your thoughts on what Andy just said and then what Mel just talked about, fear.
Yeah, coincidentally, I was born in Port Dickson.
Okay.
I've seen that place since by telling this when the age, by telling the year that I was born, I'm revealing my age, which I'm not shy. Since 1953 until now, to be honest with you, developments in Port Dickson have not been so striking as I would expect it to. But looking back, I think it was a blessing in disguise, because had whatever authorities developed PD into something else, for example, compared to Penang, Penang is totally devastated as far as I'm concerned, and so many other practitioners of tourism are concerned. You can hardly get a sea breeze if you are behind the hotels because of the tall buildings and so forth. We can still manage that in PD, but one thing that strikes me is that PD doesn't have a proper eating arcade or eating places. You know a few places like in Batu Lima, for example, you have got the Malay areas. And then you got for example, a lot of Malays would like to go, a lot of Muslims, for example, have asked each other, in PD, where can we get halal seafood? They know very well that if it is done by Malays, they can assume that it is halal. They want Chinese Muslim halal seafood.
Yes, there is now.
Yeah, but it is not enough.
Yeah.
For the burgeoning of people who are going to visit once the pandemic. I think the pandemic is going to fall in love with us and stay on for a long time. Things like this. I think Muslims are now educated enough to be convinced that once you say that you got a Jakim halal logo, you cook with very clean utensils and so forth. In short, there should be more Muslim, Chinese Muslim restaurants in Port Dickson, because it defeats the purpose of promoting PD as a tourist destination by the sea when you do not have sufficient seafood places. And then the other thing that I have spoken to friends in Port Dickson is that there are not much to see apart from beaches. So just now, I think Andy was talking about other places in Negeri Sembilan and so forth. I think Lukut is one thing, but Malaysians are not very fond of history. They find history very boring. For example, if we go to Langkawi also, they are not very fond of the historical places. They are more into fun and all this. So I'm talking about generational gaps. For people like us, we like to go to certain places. For the Gen Y and the younger set, they want something different, which are not available in PD according to their demand.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Andy, do you want to maybe provide more color? Because that's an interesting.
Okay. All right. Okay. So regarding the Chinese Muslim seafood restaurant, yes, currently year back on ago, so we do have three very quite big Chinese Muslim restaurant. It's like Sri Bantai. They have two branches. One is the Lekomang and the other one is PD Waterfront. So this is a Chinese halal seafood restaurant, and another one is a sea view seafood restaurant. So this is a good. We did know about this seafood restaurant is very important for tourists to try all this Chinese seafood and everything. So we try to improve it. Frankly speaking, during the all this while, Greece Milan state government, maybe other other parties that are not really emphasize on tourism, Greece Milan tourism, especially Port Dickson, and not very go forward to develop further as a economic revenues for that. So unlike those Penang or Malacca did very concentrate on this tourism. So we try to push forward to state government to redevelop everything. So especially like destination. Just now they're talking about the destination. We have a farm like operate by a farm in the city KL. So we have a farm, an ostrich farm, and all these. Of course, there will be a water theme park also become, but it's supposed to open at last year, but because of pandemic, so we do delay on that. So hopefully we will try to get it improved, all this. And of course, we want to keep all these natural things to remain at the Port Dickson, not to become like a city or whatever. So we don't want to become a shopping center or all those things, but we remain all these historical or natural things.
Fantastic. Thank you, Andy. Dr. Sri, question for you. This is from the CEO of MITDA. He basically wants more information or more insights on the safety and security on tourism.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Rusdi. Okay. Before I get into the safety and security, I think the few other panelists spoke about revenge tourism. Now, when we talk about revenge tourism, there are a few elements that we have to look into. Number one is whether the employee, the talent is ready to receive the customer. That is number one. Number two is whether the hotels or the tourism industry is going to come out with a package, good package to promote domestic tourism. This is something that is going to be a challenge. Keeping in mind that with this pandemic being there, it is not going to go, it is going to be there. And COVID may come in various names later after this, like what I mentioned earlier about SARS and HINI. COVID will come in various. So are we prepared? Is our employees, do they understand what COVID is? So this is something that we have to look into, the industry has to look into, Malaysian Association of Hotel has to look into, to make sure that most of the employees are vaccinated. They are vaccinated, and that is a point of importance. Because you can see that one is when you open up for domestic tourism, there is going to be a lot of legal issues bringing forward by the customers today. And even you open up for international. This is where hospitality law comes in, where we have to understand that we are subjected to all sorts of legal implications in the future after this. And when we go into safety and security, the most important part is, yes, we have water park, we have theme park, we have horse riding, we have all these water sports that are running. The element of occupational safety and health, OSHA. This is where programs have to be developed on kitchen safety, front office safety, housekeeping safety. Even the guy is going to the recreation, to the water park. Whether the employee understands about this, understands about the occupational safety, which implicates them working in this industry, and also for the tourist who is going to use the facility. Now, occupational safety and health, yes, we have NIOSH, we have the Department of Occupational Safety and Health, but I think it is more focused to the manufacturing industry. It is not so much focused into the hotel industry. So this is another area that we have to look into, because with Gen Z on board now, and you see that today we have Google has become so friendly. Everyone sits around with Google and gets information out of there. I think when we talk about revenge tourism, these are the few elements that we have to look into. And the the other part of security, yes, as you know that maybe PD is not dangerous. I mean, you don't have petty theft, you don't have people walking in and taking over your resort or something like that. But I think to a certain extent, the security is not, it should be, all employees should be alert. They should be trained to identify in case they see some suspicious behavior. Because you cannot leave it to the security department, because as you know that most of our security department are Nepalese. So this is something that even the front office, housekeeping, waiters, recreation assistant, they have to be alert to see, to understand the behavior of tourists who are coming in, or people, how suspicious they are. So these are the type of trainings that should be done. I was talking to some people from the immigration department and also to the customs, and they were telling me when they work in the airport, even how a person pushes the bag, they can suspect that this guy is carrying something. I mean, these are the type of things that we as hospitality and tourism personnel should adapt, should know that today we are going to face a new challenge. And this challenge is going to be a greater challenge than what we faced before. So I think to a certain extent, yes, COVID has affected us. Business has been down. But I think we should look at it that I think it is time that we should look into these elements of creating a very comprehensive domestic tourism package, making sure your talent is ready to meet the needs, look into occupational safety and health. All hotel employees should be vaccinated before the industry is open, and also to be trained in the area of security. This when we talk about revenge tourism, for me, if you ask me, this is the way forward. And how are we going to meet this demand? Because they may open in 3 months' time, they may open next year, but we are just in a very short period of time. We should look at things from a different point of view to bring Port Dickson to the next level.
Thank you, Dr. Sri. Dr. Kupo, question for you. In your presentation, you showed us maps and pictures of train tracks. And one of the challenges with respect to tourism is the carbon footprint. Tourism produces about 8% of the global greenhouse gases. And of that 8%, a big chunk of it is linked to the transportation sector. Furthermore, once a person gets to their destination, they go here, there, and everywhere else, which adds to their carbon footprint. So from a policy point of view, at a state level, it would seem that if that particular state is committed to sustainability and building out its infrastructure, whether it's rails or electric buses, that would further that particular geography to be attractive to sustainable tourists. Your thoughts?
I'm in full support of what you have mentioned, Dr. Roshdi. Basically, it is true. I think Malaysia has moved away from, let's talk about the old locomotives that we have, see all the smokes and all those things. I think we have now gone into electrical trains and kind of stuff, yeah. So when we looked at the infrastructure that was presented in the plans, the plans that were presented, two of my slides, what they were thinking is all about electrical trains and needs to be brought back. It's heavy infrastructure costs in plan, but only if it gets through, yeah, it gets through. And I think if it comes through, I am really in full support with your view to reduce carbon footprints and all those things, yeah. Imagine, I also wanted to relate this to something else. As I mentioned to you, more than 100, you can even go to 150,000 or something like that. Was it the 150,000 or 150,000 vehicles? I'm not very sure about that, yeah, because I was not able to access that info. You are talking about a very huge amount of emission, yeah, and pollution, and it comes from basically from KL and surrounding areas, not so much from Malacca, and also it might be coming from surrounding areas and in Johor and Singapore. They come here to Port Dickson, and you can see all the outstation cars, many. Yeah? So this definitely increases the pollution. The future plans has to be in various parts of, as far as I know, they are all into reducing carbon footprints in many different ways. Now, if you can allow me to add one or two other points here. I'm in full support with what Andy and Azmi mentioned just now. I'm for low development kind of. This is my personal opinion. Low development kind of Port Dickson. And what I've enjoyed from 20, 30 years ago until now, that's something that people like about Port Dickson. And if we were to look at the two slides that I mentioned just now about development, that's scary. That is really scary. Yeah? A small township with 100-something-thousand people in Port Dickson is already served by highway, and more highways coming, more railway tracks are coming, more related road connections are there coming. If again, it's with the escape clause, it's a disclaimer. If it takes off, yeah, and it will change the landscape of Port Dickson forever, like what Andy mentioned, as well as Azmi. I'm a Penangite. But long time I'm in Kuala Lumpur already. I enjoy all these places, and Penang is still beautiful. It needed the infrastructure, but it's overly developed, and that shouldn't take place in Port Dickson. Yeah, and I'm in full support with what Andy mentioned. Azmi mentioned. History. That's what I try to highlight. The railway track is still there. That's a historical element that should be protected, and nobody wants to do that. Yeah, nobody wants to do that. Even that belongs to KTM. KTM is a railway, and a Malayan railway. It belongs to them. And if I can, they are not bothered. They are not bothered because this is completely disconnected from Seremban. It all stays is that railway track only. The same thing happened. When 1985-86, typing in North, it hosted 100 years of historical element of celebration of railways in the country, 1985-1986. All sort of wagons that were in Malaysia from olden days until then were all brought to Taiping. The next year, it all disappeared, and you cannot find all these kind of wagons anymore because people are not interested so much into historical elements. All right. And also, if I want to go away from that, I think the historical element in tourism, whether Islamic or non-Islamic, it doesn't really matter, but it has to be emphasized. PD has it as well. PD also has this place called training outbound camps, very well known. KL people like to run away for training. Government departments, private sector agencies, they also go out to PD because it's just 1.5 hours away from Kuala Lumpur. A lot of money comes in for that, investment comes into that. Now, PD has a beautiful place called Pasir Panjang where you have outbound training center. I was in the university and I was leading a team, and when I went in the night, we got lost in the jungle. We got lost until another search squad came in to bring us back. It's beautiful and it's interesting. Yeah, PD has got swiftlets industry. How many people know? All right, swiftlets. And why? Because the old town was lost its beauty, and some people invested in it, and you go into the old city, you can hear this happening, and that's important. And lastly, disciplinary. We talk about Malaysians. I think when it comes to their own country, their own place, they don't care about discipline, taking care of cleanliness and all that. ask them to go another place, they'll be very careful. All right.
Yeah.
But in their own country, their view is they understand their country very well, that they throw, somebody will pick it up. That's their view.
No, I think the enforcement part is very important.
Very important, yes. And to take that to a last point, there is a question in the chat box whether we can impose a charge on for people to utilize beach. It can be done. It can be done. Now, relates that to, I was involved with the heritage protection in Penang and Malacca as a consulting team. We studied that and we suggested that hotels become the point of collecting the money, the fee. And you can see that happening. It's already being implemented in Penang as well as in Malacca. I think they charge 2 ringgit per day, per night, stay in a hotel. That's the best way, because you need somebody to collect the revenue, all right? And that revenue is then taken and transferred to the government, whichever most of the time is the federal government. And then they can always discuss about how many percent goes to state government, how many percent goes to PD, for example.
This is one of the MBBD have adopt a hotel, become taking care of all the beach. So we did started to do that.
That's very good. That's very good. And it's already being implemented. When we proposed it in the beginning, there was so much of opposition from the Malaysian Hotels Association. And they said, no, how can we do this and all this kind of stuff. I think now it's already in practice in Malacca, in Penang, and also Sabah. Sabah stands a different way, the way they do things. They already also done that. So there are many ways for PD, but I would like to propose this way in some. PD can enjoy, but not by overdevelopment. Thank you.
We will remain all the historical things and all the natural things.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Let's sum up, because I think we've been on air for nearly 3.5 hours, and this last half an hour is exciting because of discussion, and I think I'm enjoying it, and I think our audience are enjoying it. So if we can all sum up with about a 20-second soundbite for Port Dickson Tourism Reimagined. I'll start it off, my 20 seconds, and then please follow. What I would like to see, Andy, is to develop a tourism accelerator in Port Dickson where startups work with the hospitality industry. I think no one is really looking at it from that point of view, and I think that is going to be something of interest for consideration. So that's my 2 cents. Andy, please.
Okay. So as during this pandemic, taught us a lot of things happens. I think the gods meant to try to educate the humans. So what I think is the hospitality have to emphasize on the cleanliness and everything, because this COVID also related to cleanliness and the environment. So during this happened 1.5 years, we have encountered all these things are open and closed economic. So whatever I think is we have to live with the virus. So be positive and don't expect the virus to gone away in 1 day or in few days. If you want to totally zero cases, I don't think so will happen. But please be vaccinated and herd immunity. Then people are not worried to go out because become endemic as a flu. Do you worry about flu? No. But so when you're vaccinated, you won't be hospitalized until category 4 or 5. So people are happy. I mean, no worry to go out, then economy will open. This is the thing, that be positive and don't worry. I think once you get vaccinated after 2 weeks, I think will happen. I think UK did practice this, become endemic. Singapore announced it as endemic. This is how I think whole world need to practice this. Be more positive to face an endemic. It's not a pandemic anymore.
Right.
Right.
And thank you. Thank you. I mean, that's a positive way to look at it. And I think that's the school we should all subscribe to. Brother Azmi, last word from you. Okay, you may have left. Where is our colleague from the Philippines? Mel, you there?
Hello. Hello.
Okay, there you are, Brother Azmi. Go ahead.
Just a very short one. I enjoyed today's session, but we don't have much time for the Q&A and exchange of ideas. Can I suggest that after this, we either maintain this group or we go break up into smaller group and eventually we form a, a think tank?
Sure. We look forward to taking we will follow up with this group. I think it's a dynamic group. So thank you, Brother Azmi. Mel, you were going to say something, please.
Yeah. My last thought about Port Dickson's tourism is its ability to become a major destination for domestic tourism through its people. At the end of the day, tourism is about experience. So at the end of the day, tourism is about people's interaction. Yes, we may have limitations on interaction because of the COVID, but to have a prepared and well-skilled manpower in our industry would still make a difference in providing a home away from home experience for our travelers.
Excellent point. Absolutely excellent point. Thank you, Mel. Dr. Sri.
Okay, number one, I would like to thank all of you here, all the panel speakers. And for me, I would say that quality talent is cash check, and that can be encashed in any countries. So, Port Dickson, if you want to be the premier tourist resort, which you were, I mean, all of us know in Malaysia that when we were young, we went to Port Dickson. I think you all have to do something different to ensure that you compete with other areas, tourist areas in Malaysia. And I believe you can, because you have everything that is there. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kopu, you, I think, have the last word, unless I missed another speaker.
Okay, Dr. Rashidi, I'd just like to end by saying that, yes, the government is ultimately necessary. All tiers of government are doing their part, very important, and keep them in view. And most important is the local authority of Port Dickson, which is very important. And I'm sure they are very happy to meet with the NGOs and all the interested parties in getting closer to them and to organize things, and because in the name of stakeholders, and also to improve what is required by Port Dickson. But I would like to also end by saying overdevelopment is not good, definitely, and people enjoy mediocre kind of development is in a controlled form rather than overdevelopment, which is going to be destructive. Yeah, and we also don't want pollution and kind of stuff, which is a major issue, which I'm worried now, because Malaysia may end up Port Dickson may receive all these things back immediately once the pandemic is almost over into endemic, and when the borders are open back, perhaps by end of this year. So the Port Dickson has to be prepared for this, because people are stuck in their houses for almost 2 years now, and they may be waiting to release their tension out at PD in no time.
And the sea, and the Port Dickson sea is prepared, because the dolphin is surrounding, because the sea is so clean.
Yes. Without human being, that's always very good.
That's a good point.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
It's our pleasure. I think we have Dr. Razif and Dr. Siti still here. So Dr. Razif, last words?
Okay, this is a very interesting discussion. What I would like to say here today is that we have to look into inclusivity because we want everybody here. It's not only the academia or also the industry practitioners, but people on board. So we want to have all people on board to know the current state, what is really happening at PD. For example, do we really want to see the international outlook? Because the way I see it, so this is totally different as compared to other beach. For example, you look at the Saru, because there's you see the development is it reflects the segment that they want to offer. But in PD, it's totally different because you see the surroundings. So it must be. I'm not sure how the plan that the local council would like to offer, but somehow if you look at the nearest city like Seremban already coming up to become the city. So that's why I would say that maybe if let's say just now we mentioned about try to develop train, for example, rail from Seremban to PD, but somehow we have to also look into loading factor. So can we get the loading factor because the investment of this is quite expensive, So that's why I would say that inclusivity and strategic thinker. So if you want to plan something, you must look at every angle. So it's not like to say we want to only benefit hospitality and tourism. It's supposed to benefit the local people first, but then we also want to have, it should benefit also this tourism. I think the anchor of the industry in PD. So I would say in the future, the word inclusivity, strategic, as well as the updating will be one of the important tools for us to discuss. Maybe we can sit again to discuss more about this topic. Thank you.
Inshallah. Excellent points. Dr. Siti, I believe you have the last word as the last but not the least important speaker. So Dr. Siti.
Yes, thank you. In my opinion, we will. This is the time that we should work together. Either we are from the government agencies, or we are from the NGOs, or we are from the private sectors. We should work together. And in fact, I really hope that destinations should work together as well. PD should work perhaps together with Langkawi, or should work with Genting Highlands, for instance. Because this is not the time for us to compete with each other.
Yes.
Even Malaysia can work with Philippines, and international agencies should work together with local agencies as well to promote tourism, not only in PD, but all over the world, so that we can have a sustainable tourism or responsible tourism. And all the best to all of us in tourism industry. And I'm sure that we will be back on track, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very good.
I'd like to thank everyone. I'd like to thank my colleague who's behind the scenes, Nur Haili. So Haili, thank you very much for being the glue of this event and keeping us into a successful event. Andy, Dr. Sri, Dr. Kupo, Brother Azmi, Brother Mel, Brother Razif, Dr. Siti, thank you all very much. It's nearly 1 a.m. in New York time, but it was definitely worth staying up this late to have this wonderful discussions, and I look forward to follow-ups. So thank you. Stay blessed and stay safe until next time.
Thank you very much. See you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Keep
Thank
in
you.
touch.
Bye-bye.
I leave my mobile phone in the chat box, so keep in touch, WhatsApp me or whatever.
Sure, definitely.
Okay.